think this is working. Okay. I think we got it working. I think it's working. We're praying to the powers that be here.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to Houston with a Problem, where we have lots and lots of problems at all times. On the previous stream where nothing was working, we got $385 raised for Toys for Tots. Now we're at $1 on this current version of the stream. And Laser, can you say a bunch of things so that we can hopefully make you come across with sound?
Okay, here we are. Laser the Liquidator live on YouTube.
All right, sound. People say it's working. Okay, so doing this all again. It's Charity Tuesday on Houston We Have a Problem. We're raising money for Toys for Tots in the Christmas spirit. And running with that theme, I've got Laser Haas, who was the CEO of eToys.com and experienced life as the head of a company that was under short attack and vulture capitalist hostile takeovers by Bain Capital and others. They say, "Oh, my house, my pint." I do. And he's gonna let us know what his experience was like running a company that was under attack, basically trying to get them to over leverage the entire corporation for quick cash and then set it adrift in the sea of bankruptcy. So Laser, welcome, thank you, and now everyone can hear you. And so when you tell us things, we'll know what's going on.
Okay, let's start at a simple beginning. What's really going on in the toy industry and elsewhere, but the entire toy industry, it seems that Mitt Romney, Bain Capital, Goldman Sachs decided they would devour that. And that's I got 2 SEC whistleblower case numbers back in August, and then immediately after SWAT came after me. So there's competing factions of the good people that unblocked me so I could file my whistleblower case numbers finally. And bad people that, oh, good Lord, we've been keeping them out of courts. We can't let them get here. What goes on in the toy industry and other cases is that they loan money as the dangle carrot. Doing that, they get their people inside in the upper echelon to know who is at power centers, who they can bribe, and who they can get rid of. And the classic example of that is on the source of Matt Taibbi's story, Greed and Debt, a true story about Mitt Romney and Bain Capital, but it's not the whole story. In the Greed and Debt, it'll tell you how KB CEO Michael Glazer accepted his bribe, paid himself $18 million, gave Bain Capital $83 million, and they bled out, bankrupted, and totally destroyed the company. That's what they did in eToys. They offered me a bribe. I turned it down and reported it to the Department of Justice, and that started chaos. My lawyer was Morris Nichols Arson Tunnel, MNAT.com. And the creditor's attorney is Paul Traub of Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox and other law firms. And what's going on is when they became my lawyer and eToys' lawyer and eToys' creditor's lawyer, they were actually one and the same gang, right? M&AT worked for Bain Capital and Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and other things that file. They're a prominent law firm, 85 years, 90 years in Delaware. And Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox worked for Romney, Bain Capital at Stage Stores, where Michael Glazer, the KB CEO, was a director.
Yeah.
And then Barry Gold was the director's assistant who hired Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox for the Stage Stores bankruptcy, which was in 2000 in Houston, Texas. Now, this was after Mattel and eToys were bled out by Goldman Sachs and Mattel and Bain Capital of $5 billion in 1999. At that time, Colm Connolly was the assistant United States attorney in Delaware. And then he said, there's no case here.
Yeah.
The $4 billion that Mattel lost and the $1 billion that eToys lost, it was just bad business decisions. And he said there was no case. But then what he did is the people he refused to prosecute, he became a partner of M&AT. The very firm that did the crimes.
Yeah.
Now, M&AT was court approved to be my attorney and eToys' attorney, and Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox was the creditor's attorney.
So there's a huge conflict of interest because they're representing both sides, essentially.
Well, and the conflict of interest is against the law in bankruptcy.
Yeah.
25% of the code, technically lawyers can tell you this, that are not part of wanting them to get away with it.
Yeah.
There's a faction that wants them to get away with it. But technically, you file an application as a professional person on Section 327A, and you have to put in a Rule 2014 affidavit stating under oath, under penalty of perjury, you have no conflict of interest in accordance with the code 10114, that you're swearing under oath you're a disinterested person, that there's 100% arm's length good faith negotiation between creditor and debtor. Well, M&AT was lying, and I didn't find this out for years, and Paul Traub, a Traub on Across and Fox, was lying about their connections. Now, they expected to get away with this because Combe Connolly, the assistant U.S. attorney's now their partner, still has his friends on the inside, his assistant U.S. attorneys, that'll make sure the investigation won't happen. And he's got friends in New York, which was necessary. That's the other part of the equation. They have the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ in New York. They're Delaware corporations. But their stock is exchanged in New York. So Stephen Piken, P-E-I-K-E-N, who was the recent SEC top enforcer, that's a joke, was the SEC Task Force, Southern District of New York, assistant U.S. attorney. Both him and Combe Connolly basically probably told their bosses, unless their bosses were in on it, we don't have no proof of that at this time, but they basically agreed there's no case here. So then Combe Connolly becomes a partner of M&AT. M&AT placed eToys into bankruptcy. When they placed them into bankruptcy, I didn't find out for years because a PACER wasn't online at that time. Public Access Court Electronic Systems. This is the thing that Aaron Swartz was trying to help me and others make copies of, so they couldn't make files disappear, because that's what they're doing now. If you go on PACER to eToys, KB Toys, or in New York to Cosmetic Plus or Playco, you'll see all the files with Paul Traub, who's basically Mitt Romney's bag man, are disappearing. Now, you can't make dockets disappear. It's against the law. They say it's unavailable or not found in database. One case is okay, but every case he's doing across the country, that's ridiculous. But what they do is Bain Capital and Goldman Sachs, they loan money into the unit. They get inside and find out who is too much of a do-gooder like me. They got rid of me. And who will take the bribe, right? They get the people out, and then what they do is they bleed out money. And they did this in the list that I gave you there. Do you prefer Mr. Wade or Houston?
Houston's fine,
Okay. All right, Houston. So what they did is with KB, Gymboree, Jumbo Sports, Stage Stores, Zany Brainy, FAO Schwartz, Parent Company, Toys R Us and eToys, a dozen public and private companies, they repeat this pattern, which is a racketeering pattern. But when you are Al Capone and you arrange for Frank Nitti to be your prosecutor, you know you're not going to get prosecuted. So you steal bigger, faster from as many as you can. And that excess billions of dollars, it's $22 billion I can well document. But if you connect all the dots, because they did it at Dreyer, went to jail, Tom Petters went to jail, they're involved in all of them, all across the country. It's one big giant racketeering thing when you hear Madoff and Rothstein and Stanford and Petters. It's one giant racketeering scheme that always has the assistant U.S. attorneys and the bankrupt trustee prosecutors bearing the case. They file bankruptcy to bleed out the rest of the money, and doing bankruptcy allows them to intentionally destroy the records. Normally, you'd have to keep the records for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But if the IRS don't complain and demand that you keep the records, they destroy the records. And if you paid attention, Romney and the Olympics, he destroyed the books and records. When Romney was governor of Massachusetts, his staff bought up the computer hard drives because the law in Massachusetts said that you have to keep paper records for 25 years. Well, they didn't have any paper records. They did it all email. The law is behind the times. So they bought up $95,000 to hard drives and then bulldozed them and crushed them. right? And eToys, M&AT, that's my lawyer, also eToys lawyer, court approved.
Yeah.
This is court authorized, but they're doing it under penalty of perjury. And Paul Traub being the same one in the same gang, again, working for Bain Capital, Wells Fargo, and all the other people that are bleeding eToys out, they agree to destroy books and records the very first month of the case, which is absurd.
Yeah.
You can't find any other case where a judge, and our case went on for 14 years. It went on from 2001 until 2015.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what they do. They bleed out, they bankrupt, they destroy the evidence. And then here's the corny point. eToys and KB were bankrupt 3 times.
Yeah.
With Paul Traub or M&AT or whoever is on their side being in the gang that's doing this racketeering enterprise of bleeding out, bankrupting, and destroying.
Yeah.
Right? They know that they can get away with it. So every time that the auction was sold for KB or eToys, it wound up back at Bain Capital, and they repeated it again. Because, again, it's a perfect formula.
Yeah.
It's genius. It's against the law, but it's genius that you stiff your creditors, your landlords, your tax collectors, your freight shippers, your employees, their unions.
Yeah.
You know, you steal all this money out. And that's what they do. It's a religious practice with them. It's a racketeering enterprise. But just like Mitt Romney retired retroactively from the crimes, if you pay attention, when he ran for president, they claimed that he was retroactively retired because I proved he was lying, that he said he left Bain Capital in 1999, and his affidavit to the people of the United States for the presidential election says that he had nothing to do with Bain Capital in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's fraud.
Yeah.
That's lies under oath to the American people, because we proved that he signed affidavits, that he was there at certain company meetings and so forth. But again, who's going to prosecute him?
Yeah.
And you got to pay attention, Houston. It's billions of dollars.
Yeah.
How much does it take to buy a U.S. attorney that's only going to make $3 million in a lifetime, and you're going to get $1 billion? And you give him a house in Costa Rica. You give his aunt that's going to die a place that she leaves in the will to him.
Yep.
These schemes are so elaborate. But in our case, we can prove that Colm Connolly, the Bidens, when he was Senator Biden, I told Joe, he knew me personally.
Yeah.
I told Joe, I said, they're either pissing in your backyard with your permission or without your permission.
Either way,
if they're doing it with your permission, you know, Joe, you're my enemy today.
Yeah.
Right? If they're doing it without your permission and you don't do something about it tomorrow, you're my enemy tomorrow. So what they did, what the Bidens did, they can't get involved in a federal case as a senator.
Yeah.
And his son was the Attorney General of Delaware. They gave me a thing that kept getting disappeared, the resume of Colm Connolly, which they posted at the Office of Legal Policy, Department of Justice, which I never even heard of. It turns out you can't redact stuff once it's on the Office of Legal Policy. And his own resume says that he clerked for Walter K. Stapleton, who was an M&AT partner, and then he was assistant U.S. attorney from 92 to 1999, where the $5 billion first crimes began.
Yep.
And then he was partner M&AT until August 2001, which is the date that George W. Bush nominated him, which was also when I reported the crime of them trying to bribe me at M&AT and Paul Traub.
Yeah.
Now, for 7 years, I'm handing the very partner who made money as part of his partnership. He was my lawyer. He was eToys' lawyer.
Yeah.
He made money out of the partnership of M&AT that was stealing money from its clients. This is the other thing that boggles my mind. These lawyers are betraying their court-approved clients, stabbing him in the back openly, and the bars and the state Supreme Court and the U.S. attorneys, the FBI, DOJ. The FBI's threatened me. Get this. You'll crack up about this. The FBI told me, because I kept emailing everybody about the crimes, right? You know, we're a digital age. Email it to them. Because I can't prove that the mail got to them, but I can prove that their email received it, right? So the FBI in Wilmington, Delaware says if I don't stop emailing about these crimes, that because I was arrested when I was 18, my family was junior organized crime things, and I was trained very well, but I changed my mind when I was 19 years old. But in the meantime, they said because of that, they're going to put me in jail for life for violation of the Electronic Spam Act. They were saying that me emailing the Department of Justice and FBI about crimes was violating the law.
Yeah.
And you should see the vulgar email that I sent them, right? Go ahead. The last place you want me is in a court of law.
Yeah.
And again, 60,000 jobs gone, $22 billion gone, hundreds of crimes that any failing first-year law student could make a career out of for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they won't touch it.
So
right, they try to claim statute of limitations, which is bullshit.
Yeah. So when you get approached by Bain or others, is it do they first just sort of jump in by like doing a leverage buyout? Do they first do it by lending money? Do they how do they first like get their tentacles into
again, here's part of the problem. And all you people that have Mattel stock need to dump it, because if the SEC does their job on my whistleblower complaint, Mattel is part of the problem. All right. Bain Capital and Goldman Sachs did a deal with the thing called the Learning Company. You can look it online. Bain Capital still brags about it, and the CEO of the Learning Company still talks about it. Yeah. Now, the Learning Company was dive bombing, right? They were broke. They were near broke. Bain Capital gave them $38 million, and I don't know if they promised more money or what. But a year later, M&AT merges the Learning Company with Mattel. Now, you can look it up online. Jill Gerard was the CEO at that time, the female CEO of Mattel. Yeah. They instantly lost $4 billion. Now, they're a public company, instantly lose $4 billion. Shouldn't there be an investigation? Yeah. Right? Yeah. There wasn't, because Combe Connolly, the assistant U.S. attorney, said no. And Stephen Piken, the assistant U.S. attorney, SEC task force, again, remember, Mattel and eToys were corporations in Delaware with their stock traded on New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Yeah. By those two corroborating that there's no case, right? There was no case. Mattel gets away with it, but Bain Capital gets their people inside, like I told you before. They are now 12 million shares, I think is what the press reported. They got 12 million shares of Mattel. Excuse the background noise of the blower. He'll be gone in a second. I'm sorry. But now they're inside. They can wine and dine and figure out who to bribe and who to, Bain Capital has all these other companies. You could be our senior vice president over here or whatever. And once the people take the bribe, you're done. Yeah. See, this is the thing. The geniuses say, oh, well, they've got it going. They're stealing all over the place. I can make 18 million like, Laser Haas or Michael Glazier. Yeah. That's not what they do. They turn around and say, now we got the evidence that you took a bribe and you did it. I show the emails that you suggested it to us, because the people fall for it. Yeah. They praise them, pat them on the back, say, what an excellent job you did, which is what they offered to me, and said, we can get you on other companies, which is what they did with Michael Glazier. Michael Glazier went over to Stage Stores, the CEO over there, and we now know what happened to that. Mm-hmm. That went, bled out, bankrupt, destroyed, all the shareholders lose their money, and everything goes away. Here's the thing. They do it other different ways. With the merging in of the Learning Company, right? Mattel is a long-time game. And Mattel, with the people inside, well, they would turn around and bankrupt KB, FAO, Zany Brainy by just pulling their credit rating away. When Mattel, the number one toy people in the country, the number one toy vendors, say your credit's no good, and they got what they call a SANS list, they pull their credit support for guaranteed vendor payment of debt. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, so entity has to go bankrupt. They can't cash. Yeah. You can't switch from a net 30. Well, and the toy industry, by the way, is even greater. Yeah. In the toy industry, you get all your inventory all year long. You only pay 25% in 6 months in June, the end of June. Then you pay another 25% at the end of Black Friday. Then you pay the balance of the 50% of the entire year before at the end of January. It's an odd tax year, but what that allows Mattel managers to do is they get their bonuses based on what was sold, and then they blame the bankruptcy on somebody else the next year that doesn't take their bonuses back. Yeah. They do it by all types of crazy schemes and collusion.
So in 2014, there's an article written on Seeking Alpha called "Anatomy of a Short Attack," and in that they describe how these funds or vulture capital groups, how they get inside these companies and they get members of the board in there. They get C-level executives, and they start to
Exactly
do things
what I'm saying.
they attack the ability to pay off debts. They attack the ability to get logistics through for vendors or anything like that. They cancel contracts, and basically they just sort of like shrink the company from within, and then that gets them on the track towards bankruptcy, where they start getting liquidated, and then so when they got into eToys, when they got their little fingers into eToys, what was it they did to sort of try to become like part of the board, or become the creditors, or become like, what were those steps?
Okay. Again, like I told you, there's different ways to do it. The way that you're talking about, like they did with consolidated stores, that Big Lots that own KB, they gave them $38 million down and promised $100 million or more later on, which they never got when they filed bankruptcy, because they took out the $100 million right before bankruptcy. That's a different scheme. In the eToys, what happened was Goldman Sachs took us public, and you can read New York Times rigging the IPO game in March 2013. What they did was they deliberately underallocated our stock and deliberately underpriced our stock. So instead of 20 million shares, they only gave out 8 million. And instead of $50 to $80 a share, there's actually an email in that New York Times story, Rigging the IPO Game by Joe Nacira. He went to the court where the clerk was telling me the entire case was under seal. He's in New York. He walked up and said, there's no order for it being under seal. And she handed him the entire case file. And he found me another smoking gun where the girl said, Lawton Fitt, the exec at Goldman Sachs that was taking us public, that the price is guaranteed to go to $80. But they only priced it for 20. What they did was called a kickback spinning scheme, where they give it to handpicks like the Meg Whitman. I don't know if she got it in that game. I'd have to look at the list. But, they give it to handpicked friends that are rich, saying you're guaranteed to make money on this. And what we'll do is, whatever you make money on, say that you sell it at 60, 65, or 70, you don't let it hit top and come back down. eToys actually hit 85. Some say 87, but the report I saw said 85 as CEO of eToys. What they did was they kicked back 50% of their windfall profits to Goldman Sachs. Now, this is Goldman Sachs stabbing its client in the back. Right? Okay. Now, Elliot Spitzer, as AG of New York, sued Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and all those on the dot-com spin-back schemes. But he couldn't sue Goldman Sachs and settle with them because I had already sued them first. I had already authorized the case in New York Supreme Court. And that actually turns out to my favor, because it preserved the case that would now be technically closed by statute of limitations. So what they did was they only gave us less than $18.50 a share, because Goldman Sachs was guaranteed $1.50 a share by the contract that I saw that is now destroyed because they got authorized to destroy books and records. Right? So that money's gone. Now Goldman Sachs does the real snaky thing. And who knows if they knew 9/11 was coming or something like that. M&AT, Goldman Sachs attorney that was involved in the learning company merger with Mattel, right? They decide to march towards Toys R Us. And so Bain Capital buys KB, and KB puts a bid on eToys, and that's refused. So what it does is M&AT files a bankruptcy on eToys, knowing that they own the prosecutor and they own the creditor's attorney. So the only wrench in that works is me, that they think they can bribe because I got a criminal past. Right? Lo and behold, I don't take the bribe and I report them. They panic. They throw out the one honest guy. There was a vice president of Mattel, director of credit. He was honorable, so they forced him into early retirement because, again, they're inside Mattel. And Mattel's going to constantly put pressure to make all these companies bankrupt, so that Bain Capital can own the toy industry basically for free.
Yeah.
And they never have to pay a debt. Mattel now has a stockholder lawsuit against it about the the mortgage crisis era. Yeah. And I talked to those attorneys, informed them what's going on, and that I got the SEC whistleblower case number. So they're waiting to see how that comes out. But Mattel is actually guilty. There are partners in the upper echelon of Mattel that made sure that the Mattel shareholders got hurt. Yeah. But they benefited in partnership with Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital. The other schemes that they do is these other companies, FAO Schwartz, eToys, Gymboree, Jumbo Sports. Again, they move these same managers, Barry Gold, Jack Bush, Michael Glazer, around to these other companies, which Sarbanes-Oxley says is against the law. They realize, it's wrong to move bankrupt executives from one company to another, making them bankrupt. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But again, the prosecutors aren't prosecuting. Yeah. Right? That's what happens. So when you know you can do any crime you wish, including there's dead people in my case, eToys shareholders, the guy that built the Vietnam Memorial, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, a woman that I moved back to Minnesota to become a private detective in the Tom Petters Ponzi case. I blew the whistle there too. Yeah. And the brother of an assistant U.S. attorney in the Minnesota case of Tom Petters Ponzi was partners with the Ponzi. Yeah. You can't allow Minnesota to prosecute, but they did. Yeah. Not only that, in Tom Petters Ponzi, Bain Capital and Goldman Sachs, to show you a different scheme, Fingerhut was our fulfillment center, like Amazon, selling stuff and delivering it to individual people. Well, Fingerhut had made 25%, $10 million, $20 million of our orders vanish. Yeah. I guess everybody knew the bankruptcy was coming, and they thought they could make extra money that way. So Paul Traub, M&AT, and they locked me out of eToys and put in Barry Gold. Now, refreshing your memory, Romney owns 80% of Stage Stores. Michael Glazer is the director. Barry Gold is the director's assistant who hired Paul Traub in Stage Stores. Yeah. Now, if the Stage Stores docket wasn't disappeared on Pacer, and I don't know if you can see it on LexisNexis or Westlaw, if it wasn't disappeared on Pacer, you would see that Barry Gold is the one that hired Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox. And then in my case, I actually forced Barry Gold and Paul Traub to confess that they were partners, that they owned the company, that Traub actually paid from his law firm, Barry Gold. But Barry Gold, they put in my stead as the CEO and president of eToys after they locked me out. Yeah. So now they control everything. And they make everything disappear. They make the paperwork disappear. And then in 2013, coincidentally, after Romney lost his election, the New York Supreme Court of Appeals says that our eToys v. Goldman Sachs for the $1 billion stock fraud, the spinning scheme, can now reopen the case. Yeah. But Paul Traub, Barry Gold, and M&AT rushed to settle the $1 billion fraud case that I can prove that Goldman Sachs lawyer lied to become my lawyer and eToys lawyer and destroyed the books and records to help Goldman Sachs. A slam dunk case to get multiple $1 billion in judgment. Yeah. They can't let it go to jury. It might be $10 billion, right? Yeah. But it's at least the $1 billion that they stole we're going to get back. Yeah. Instead, they settle it for $7.5 million and the lawyers kept it all. The shareholders got zero, zilch, nada. And making that even worse, Houston, is when the judge was asked by me and the shareholders to give the eToys shareholders their legally lawful right to have an equity committee to protect the stockholders, which always happens in bankruptcy because the shareholders get paid last. Yeah. Because their value is arbitrary, they only get money distributed to them after everybody else is settled. Yep. Right? So they're allowed to have an equity committee paid by the estate. That's separate lawyers from the estate. But M&AT, Barry Gold, and Paul Traub, all being the three party that should argue, Your Honor, you got to give them the equity committee, they actually argued against it. And the judge granted that they could protect the eToys shareholders. The very guys committing the crimes got permission from the court to protect the shareholders. And then when I said to Your Honor, you can't let them do this settlement, they're ripping off the very people you authorized to do the thing that you now know they've confessed. Yeah. I got them in 2005 to confess their crimes. The judge ordered the clerk to not allow me to file anything. They take the $7.5 million and the shareholders got zero, zilch, nada.
Yep.
Again, so many schemes.
So I taught at the Art Institutes for a long time, and the Education Management Corporation, which was the company that owned the Art Institutes and owned University of the South and Argus University and Brown Mackie College and several other for-profit colleges, they got bought up by Goldman Sachs. And
oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I started there shortly after Goldman Sachs had bought them, and quickly saw like what the vulture capitalist scheme was, where they started just selling off all the land holdings and then giving themselves, like the vice presidents and the presidents of the company, these huge bonuses.
Right.
And they did it, in 2011, 2012.
It's bribery publicly in your face that should never be allowed.
Yeah, so we had this building that was like 2 whole city blocks long, 1 million square feet. We used like 2 small floors of the building, and the rest went to Real Networks and Zulily, and was rented out. So this property was making, $7-10 million a year on rent, and we got 2 floors of it, so we just made profit as a college. In the absolute bottom of the market, Goldman Sachs sold that building for $15 million when it was worth probably $120 million in downtown Seattle. We're talking waterfront in downtown Seattle. And
this is another way they do schemes.
And the vice president of something at EDMC gave himself a $15 million bonus and checked out. And so before long, the company had, I want to say $3 or $4 billion in debt that was not getting paid off. So they defaulted on all of it. And the company that was the lender for that debt all of a sudden was like stuck. Like, here's a college, entire like university system full of 200 different colleges and 200,000 students. Good luck. And Goldman Sachs just, disappeared off into the distance. But, you saw that happen with KB Toy Hobbies and Toys R Us, where, these companies may not have been leasing the storefronts. They might have owned the land that the stores were in. And the powers that came
leasing and owning in Toys R Us.
And they sold out the land from underneath them and then leased it back, essentially at a loss. And everyone involved got these huge bonuses for that cash influx of selling off these assets, and then they walked away. And so, like with a company like Mattel, what is the end game for Mattel? Just helping Bain destroy these toy companies? Because how else is Mattel going to get their products out there? Is it just through Walmart and just through Amazon?
Whoa. Wait. Let's first touch on Toys R Us.
Yes.
In Toys R Us had 2 things. They owned certain land, right? And they also had super low price leases because they signed them. The companies to build malls, shopping centers, or develop real estate for big anchors will sign them because they're guaranteed that will always be paid.
Yeah.
So that's when the banks give the right to build the shopping centers or malls. With Macy's or whoever it is. Kmart is another example. Yeah. Kmart and Sears we'll touch on in a little bit. In Toys R Us, they were public. So how they did the scheme there, after they got FAO Schwartz, Zany, Brainy, Parent Company, KB Toys, eToys, on, stolen, which now gave them enough billions to put a down payment on the Toys R Us deal.
Yeah.
What they did was they separated the real estate as the public company and took Toys R Us, the stores, into a private shell. Now that made the public company stronger, but in reverse engineering or whatever you do, they got the lion's shares of the stock or the lion's share of the guarantee or the lion's share of the rents. And again, only a few of the upper echelon get involved with. Remember, they plan these things over years. Just like I told you, KB and eToys were bankrupt 3 times and always wound up at Bain Capital. Well, Toys R Us is bankrupt, and now I sent you a link today. Now they're reopening Toys R Us starting in New Jersey again.
Yeah.
Because that's their thing. Rinse, lather, repeat. In Kmart, the same thing. Kmart had leases at 20 cents a square foot where areas were $1.50 a square foot, right? So those leases are valuable. They can sell them at a discount but make 10 times the money. And it's always somebody participating in the scheme of the bankruptcy. And in particular, Paul Traub, who's the attorney for KB and eToys and Stage Stores, and the control partner. Here's the funny thing. He was the control partner of Tom Petter's Ponzi. Remember we talked Fingerhut earlier? Yeah. Well, how Paul Traub bought Fingerhut was with $400 million of Tom Petter's Ponzi money. He settled eToys for cheap. Yeah. And then he bought it with Tom Petter's Ponzi money and went right before the FBI and the DOJ closed in. Because remember, the assistant U.S. attorney, James Lackner, head of the criminal division, brother Marty Lackner, the one who wound up dead in his closet before I could talk to him, was involved in the Ponzi. So they're involved all the way along.
Yeah.
They're guaranteed no prosecution. So Traub, right before the FBI goes in there and raids Tom Petter's Ponzi in 2008, which was before Mark Dreyer, who was Paul Traub's other partner, before Ed O'Kuhn, Traub's other partner, and before Madoff, who Traub's partner, Harold Bonnequist, was working with Dan Quayle. The feeder fund, Ezra, was the biggest feeder fund, Gabriel, into Madoff's thing, right? Because how they stopped my story from coming out with all these arrests happening in 2008, Matthew Goldstein of New York Times was going to do the story. I still have the emails like I still have with Matt Taibbi. And then all of a sudden, the two sons from Madoff rushed to rat out their dad because they know the arrest is coming. Paul Traub says, if you don't do it, you're going to jail. Well, you can't ask them any questions because both sons are dead. One's committed suicide. The other turned around and purportedly died of cancer. The girl I moved back to Minnesota purportedly died of lightning quick cancer. The guy that I had helping me in Delaware, two of them lightning quick cancer. Jack Wheeler died of suicide. Madoff's sons died of suicide. Marty Lackner, the brother of James Lackner, assistant U.S. attorney in Minnesota, dies of suicide, right? Yeah. This is the way they cut it off. And again, me coming out finally on video like this after they sent SWAT to my door, but I'm 65 years old. Yeah. My family is hurting and I can't help them this Christmas. You know, I got kids that are single parents over kids, right? They're just wrecking at them left, way, and right. I've got to go if I got to put myself in a baby Huey diaper and, you know, Lord forbid, give everybody that ugly sight and bang on the SEC and the DOJ's door. I can't let them ignore this anymore. Yeah. Because if they're getting away with this much in public, viewable, easy to convict. I mean, easy to convict. How much are they getting away with that we're not seeing? Yeah. Right? You know, Paul Traub was also, by the way, the attorney for the stockholders in Kmart. They came out of the bankruptcy so strong in Kmart that they bought Sears for cash, but the stockholders he was representing got zero, zilch, nada. Yeah. Man. All right. Let me take a little pause here so I can thank all the people who have donated. I didn't do that in the last stream because I failed miserably. We got interrupted. I'm sorry. Yeah. Because the sound wasn't coming through. But we raised $369 on the previous stream. We're at $168 here, so that puts us at $537 total so far. Awesome. Well on our way to $1,000 goal to raise money for Toys for Tots. Well, and I'm giving $1,000 tomorrow when my retirement comes in. Fantastic. Thank you. So I'm going to thank, there's Anonymous donated. We got donations from several anonymouses. Keith Holmes, another anonymous. Daphne Berry, thank you, Daphne. The Way of Sachin donated, another anonymous. Bones donated, thank you, Bones. Let's see here. AM7 and oh goodness, my chat just AM7 Bullish, thank you, Bullish. Adam Watkins, another anonymous donation. Accused Adrenaline, thank you. Granny Bags, that's a good name. Thank you so much. Another anonymous. We're at $168 on this stream. Our goal is to get to 1,000 on the day, which we are like 400 and change away from. So if you folks are in here and you want to donate so that some kids can get some Christmas joy, Toys for Tots isn't just for getting kids Christmas presents. They also get toys to children who are in the hospital. They get toys to kids that are victims of abuse, that, you know, might be separated from their family, living in foster homes or things like that. They do a great job. Make sure these kids have something to play with, you know, if they're disadvantaged. So I want to thank everybody so far who has donated. And now we can get back to what we're talking about, which is these hostile takeovers, vulture capitalism, short attacks. So on your side with eToys, did you experience naked short selling of your stock to drive it down at all? Well, here's the thing: the moment they file bankruptcy, it goes on to the off sheets. Yeah. Right. Okay. And again, I didn't find out for several years the full gravity and gravamen of what was going on.
Yeah.
I actually had dinner with Barry Gold when they locked me out. I didn't know that M&AT, my lawyer, Morris Nichols Arson Tunnel, MNAT.com, had actually forged my resignation papers. But if you go look at them, which you can't because the docket's missing right now, but I got a copy of it. There's a 2-page thing that's settlement on expenses. It doesn't say anything about resignation, right? But again, the U.S. trustee and the U.S. attorney's office is in on it. Let me pause right there.
Okay.
One of the things that the FBI has threatened to put me in jail over, and other people have threatened to put me in jail over and get me for, is that Ashcroft tried to help.
John Ashcroft?
Yeah. Attorney General John Ashcroft wrote a paper to the Hague Global Forum on Corruption, stating that corrupt federal judges are in collusion with high-ranking members in the U.S. Trustee's office. Now, shouldn't that have a task force attached to it? Shouldn't there be congressional hearings? Right?
Yeah.
Well, the moment he put that out, it wound up disappearing. Why it disappeared is New Jersey U.S. Attorney Chris Christie gave John Ashcroft a $50 million no-bid deferred prosecution agreement. Now, what did we used to call it when people would get millions of dollars as a federal agent not to do prosecution?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. It's bribery, plain and simple. It shouldn't be allowed no more than these people that gut their shareholders and their company and their retirement funds and take millions of dollars and leave after it's bankrupt and go their own rewarded way.
Yeah.
You know, again, vulture capitalism is organized crime. It's racketeering, right? Now, after Ashcroft got that $50 million, which $1 million bonus went to Rachel Poulos, who was the U.S. attorney in Minnesota, where I was trying for years to get Paul Traub and Tom Petters and Mark Dreyer arrested, and Deborah Yang, who was the Los Angeles president's corporate fraud task force that was set up after WorldCom and Enron, the other debacles, right? Again, she's the one that sent me to Wilmington, Delaware, where the Wilmington, Delaware FBI girl said that she was going to arrest me for violation of the Electronic Spam Act and sending emails about the crime. And matter of fact, the FBI now has me blocked. I can't send stuff from my IP. You know, it was a miracle that I got the 2 SEC records, and it's a miracle they didn't get trigger happy when they pulled me out of my room. They didn't pull my partner out of the room. They didn't ask for his name and ID. And they kept telling me I was lying, that I wasn't in the computer. And again, laser's a nickname I got from basketball, being a laser guided missile in my college years, 45 years ago. My middle name is Steve. You know, my kids at school call me Steve, but I've been called Laser, for decades. Except with my ex-wife, she would hang up if you said Laser. I don't know, but anyway, nobody has the right to tell you what your moniker is. You know, if you call yourself JA, like Facebook says, I'm not the real Laser. There's nobody else Laser Haas in the world. Yeah. You know, the thing is that they do these crimes all over and people wind up dead all over, and assistant U.S. attorneys wind up with the bonuses for not doing the case. Yeah. And that is a congressional hearing. And this is what I'm thinking. Biden knows that I don't let the tiger's tail go, right? His son was supposed to take over when they closed our eToys case in 2015, but as Attorney General in Delaware, but then he died of lightning quick cancer, right? So, and then I sent Attorney General Lynch, I sent her a letter on Whistleblower Day in 2016, daring her to arrest me if one of the 100 allegations I was making was false. Yeah. If any one was false. But I said, if any one of them is true, you got to do something. If 10 of them are true, you got to put a team on it. If all 100 are true, you got to get a task force congressional hearings. You can't let this stuff go on. And then Trump came in. Here, again, this is how they mess with the court system. I sued Trump to block Jay Clayton, right? On March 22nd, I knew Trump. I met him. My dad, organized crime and real estate in New York, and in Naples, Florida. I was at Trump's boat. We tried to do the Barbizon Hotel deal with him. He said he wouldn't take it if we gave it to him. He turned out he was right. He knew what he was talking about. It was a disaster. But I wrote him a letter. He didn't answer. So I sued him in Washington, D.C. This is Washington, D.C. federal court. And the clerk of court refused to put my suit in the record.
Yeah.
I sued him, and you can see the record. If they haven't redacted it, I've got a copy. It says that I sued him. The actual record says I sued on March 22nd, 2017. But it wasn't put in the record until May 24th.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing that's funny about that. The judge dismissed my case on May 5th.
Before
you know
it was
what
even in the
happened
record.
right before?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even clocked or in the record.
Yeah.
You know what other funny thing happened right before the judge dismissed my case?
What?
Is they approved Jay Clayton for the SEC. And we all know what happened when he got in there. Enforcements were cut in half.
Yeah.
And to make it worse, this is the thing. Now, here's the thing. They got the memo. The FBI, the DOJ, the SEC, the U.S. trustee, Trump, they all got my brief. They all know the allegations.
Yeah.
They didn't do a damn thing. Instead, Jay Clayton, after he gets in, hires Stephen Piken, the former SEC task force assistant U.S. attorney who buried the cases, as the new enforcement guy. So for the entire time they're in office, I'm blocked. I can't send nothing in, right? It was after he was blocked that Gensler came in that I actually got the chance to put things in the record. And you remember Jay Clayton tried to become demoted to be the U.S. attorney in New York City? He golfed with Trump 5 miles away from Paul Schwab's house in Randolph, New Jersey. And that failed. But I think they were going there to get rid of my records. There may be some records there, if he didn't get to them yet, that they didn't purge because I sent records to them. And I actually got an email response when Preet was in office, right, from his investigator, Ron Gardella, turn around and acknowledge he received my case. The only time that anybody actually acknowledged receiving my case before I got the SEC whistleblower case numbers in August, and they sent SWAT after me. You know, by the way, Ron Gardella got promoted to a new office. A friend of his said, "You better file your RICO thing quick." I said, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
When I filed it, the judge in California said that it was insubstantial. And the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, where a couple of people are from this case are on, including Walter K. Stapleton, a senior judge, ruled that the federal rules of appellate procedure don't apply to my case. This is what they do. The judge's order to close, the clerk's refused to put it in the record. And here's a cute thing. There's no lawyer that I can find that has ever seen a case marked FDEC. When they refused to deposit my case, the clerk kept sending me emails. I got to wait for judge's permission, you know, all this stuff, which is a crime, right? It's actually marked FDEC in big, black, bold letters on the right-hand side with a red triangle around it, FDEC. No, that F means exactly what you think it means. You know, F with the case and get it buried. We shouldn't have this stuff in our systems. Just think if GameStop or AMC wind up in court in Delaware. Here's what's even worse. Combe Connolly, that the Bidens helped me stop by giving me his resume. Senator Biden refused to sign the Senate slip. So Trump, seeing that Biden was coming, right? Anybody paid attention. Trump was never concerned about anybody else. From the moment gone, he was getting Rudy Giuliani and everybody to go after Biden. That's all he was ever focused on, right? And Trump is going out, and what happens is he nominates Combe Connolly for a judgeship. And Trump says, I'm not going to pay attention to the Senate approval slip protocol because it's not a law. So he shoves Combe Connolly in. So this corrupt U.S. attorney that I can prove was willfully blind in half a dozen cases, right? Even on his Twitter, if you go to Real Prosecutor on Twitter, that's his Twitter handle. It actually calls me a liar. This idiot judge, former prosecutor, gives me top billing, right? This is how brazen and idiotic this guy are. But he's now chief judge of Delaware. And his partner at M&AT, Mary Ellen Noriega, Trump also put in. There's only 4 federal judges in Delaware. Out of 50,000 lawyers and professors and all that stuff, they pick 4 people from the same team. The other 2 judges are Andrews and Stark, right? They were both assistant U.S. attorneys to Combe Connolly when they were burying my case. So how can I file to get eToys open where the judge won't allow me to file, ordered the clerk not to appeal to the district court where the 4 people on the district court are all part of the crime? It's
That's
just absurd.
you
And
know,
again,
the judges. There's no one. How do I put this? There's no one watching the watchers when it comes to the judicial system. We just trust that they're going to be these benevolent, enforcers of the rules. But when they break the rules, there's no one to make sure that they're doing the right thing. There's no recourse. And so if you get a judge at these lower levels, like, yeah, we won't even hear this case, there's no way to appeal it to a higher court after that. It's just done. So you're in that rock and a hard place where what are you going to do? What can you do?
And you can't go to the Supreme Court. They only hear 70 cases a year.
Exactly.
They're not going to hear me pro se, no attorney will represent me because they don't want to be targeted.
Yeah.
Right. Every reporter, I've got hundreds of stories out there. I documented 169 a dozen years ago when Romney ran. And there's been many more since then, about the case.
Yep.
New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Fire Dog Lake. She actually shut it down. When she put out my story in 2015, she got so attacked, she just gave up Fire Dog Lake. Joe Nasir, that was at New York Times, he got harassed out of his 15 years of being on a business beat.
Yeah.
He's now over at Bloomberg, I think, or Reuters. Right. The Joe Pereira, the first guy to do my Wall Street Journal story, eToys, investors claim conflict, which is about Paul Traub. Right. Now, that lawyer, that reporter was so pure when he heard that my daughter was kidnapped, which is another thing I just don't want to go into. Yeah. We got her back. She's safe. But they messed with her bad. It's just a terrible thing. I haven't seen or touched my family or my kids, grandkids, since 2004 when my daughter got abducted. And my own lawyer, Henry Hyman of Hyman, Aber, Goldbutz, and Baker, now on his own or at another firm, emailed me a threat from Paul Traub. Says, if you don't back off, we're going to destroy your career, get all your money, and worse will happen. And when he said that to me and refused to put the proof that I had about fraud in the court thing, I filed a pro se document. Now, the judge is supposed to order my lawyer to turn around and do it. The judge authorized this guy to be my attorney. She's supposed to order him to, why is he filing without you? Yeah. No, instead she kicks me out of court, right? And after he gave me that email threat, they set me up. They tried to have me go to Vegas and buy swag goods as a liquidation. And I knew it was a setup. I walked out, idiot me. I let the guy that I met give me a hotel room. I was tired. Yeah. And it was my birthday. They abducted my daughter. They told me my daughter was first, my son will be next. Well, I got 4 kids. Yeah. How did everybody else know that I only had 2, right? Larry Reynolds was partner of the deal. I couldn't do DARE. I set up DARE charity after 9/11. They lost their money. And I set up DARE charity with bankruptcy liquidators, shoe liquidators, who I bailed out right before I did eToys. And those guys said to me, Larry Reynolds is one of our partners. Yeah. Well, Larry Reynolds and a guy named Gary from San Diego, they sent me to Vegas. And they are the ones that knew I only had 2 kids with me. But I had put my son on a plane already back east. So only my daughter was with me, right? Nobody else knew that I didn't have all 4 kids with me. Yeah. That was the only people. It turns out Larry Reynolds was a $12 billion feeder fund to Tom Petter's Ponzi. He dealt himself into the game by sharing my files that were backed up at his facility with Paul Traub, Bain Capital, and Goldman Sachs. That's how they knew everything that I was doing. Yeah. It's just, he got 10 years in prison, and he came out and taunted me. They tried to kill me when another story came out, and I was working with the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I gave him the Bernie Sanders campaign right before the Super Tuesday, where his, everything stopped because of the COVID thing. All of a sudden, cars are running me off the road left and right. One succeeded. I wound up in the hospital, right? And when that didn't work to kill me, then Larry Reynolds came and taunted me, kept sending guys, said, here's the guy that can't protect his own kids. Here's the guy that can't keep his kids from being kidnapped. When I found out who it was, broken arm and all, I went downstairs to get him. Friends saw me and stopped me just long enough. He went out the door and went over to Hollywood Park, where they hadn't built the new stadium for the LA Rams, the Chargers yet. And he said, come over there. Well, people disappear over there in the dirt all the time. I woke up and said, shit, I'm stalking a 75, 80-year-old man that I've already said I'd choke if I got a hold of him, because he set up where my daughter got kidnapped, taunting me, daring me to follow after him where they can shoot me and get rid of me. So I came to my senses about that. But sooner or later, they're going to get me. They have to. The only way to stop this story to come out is to hush me up. But hopefully enough people see this and look at the papers, and I've given backup files across the country. They stole my original ones. They would break into houses and go right past brand new computers, iMac, Apple, iPad, iPhones, and into the closet where I had given somebody a computer with my backup files on it. They got 6 out of 7. One of them they didn't get. So I was able to duplicate all that and send it to dozens of places across the country. And I don't want anybody to get hurt trying to bring my story out. Just keep sending in anonymously all the files, and maybe sooner or later we find that straw that breaks the camel's back. Yeah. Unlike Stephen Donziger's case or Detective Serpico, me and them, because we're at the level of that much media attention and fraud and corruption going on, we talk all the time, and it's the same thing. When it's that high level of corruption, you never can tell what they were going to do. Yep. I prayed, my birthday wish was Stephen Donziger to get out of jail early, and he did. He was home for Christmas, because you never know what's going to happen. If they get you cornered, they can say you did suicide like Sandra Bland or anybody else. It's nuts. Yeah. What can you do?
So, man,
I know it's so much you didn't expect it.
I was just thinking, like, my mind was like, this show is kind of going to be the basic mechanics behind these short attacks or these hostile takeovers, but if it's as deep as this is,
it's as convoluted as you can get,
where U.S. attorneys and judges that essentially are like, hey, we can stop this anytime we want, and
exactly.
And you just can't go any further. There's just a wall that gets put in front of you.
If any, here's the goal that all whistleblowers, all truth tellers do, Houston. Mm-hmm. Your goal is you go to the authorities, they don't do anything. You go to the courts, they don't do anything. You go to the press. Yeah. It's real simple. You're not trying to get quantitative attention. Yep. You're trying to get qualitative attention to equal in some way the power. You're trying to find the one judge, like U.S. Marshal Robert Lediger. I don't know if you heard of his case. He stopped an LGBT woman from being harassed. He was a supervisory U.S. Marshal. Mm-hmm. So he reported what was doing and protected her. They destroyed him. They're trying to take away his retirement. There was a U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney in San Diego. I forget his name. He just said, I'm not doing this crap anymore. This is ridiculous. I quit. Yeah. There was a guy at Goldman Sachs, Greg Smith. He wrote a letter when he resigned, when Romney was running in 2012. He said, Goldman Sachs turns around and backstabs its clients so much it calls them Muppets, right? Yeah. If anyone, any prosecutor, if David Seorder, he was looking into it, but he was looking into it when he was leaving IBT and going to start his own magazine. Yeah. And then the very next day he quit. I guess David Brock said, if you come with me, you can't do those stories. And David said, screw that. So I voted with others that he worked for Bernie Sanders, and he did a great job there. And now he's on his own. But again, he won't even speak about my case, and he's got the basic preliminaries about the case. Yeah. It's a Pulitzer, but $15,000 Pulitzer is not worth losing your life or career over. Yeah. The only way this case can be solved is multiple people come out at the same time where they can't attack anybody and squash it.
Yeah, like a school of fish.
One judge, tactic. One lawyer, one prosecutor, one professor, all at the same time come out. There's a website about corruption in bankruptcy courts called Lynn Lopucki, lopucki.com, Lopucki, right? And he's been before Congress. He works with Senator Warren and Senator John Cornyn, a bipartisan thing to stop the stuff going on in Delaware. They keep saying to Delaware, we're going to kill your venue if you don't stop it. But if they looked at my case, they would stop it already together. Yeah. Right? They don't, because once they look at it, they can't stop. Right? Once you see that people are dead, there's a dozen people are dead. Yeah. There's Tens of billions of dollars. There's corruption across the country that's documented, unequivocally documented. You have to do something, right?
So we've seen recently some strange corruption in bankruptcy court with the Sackler case, where the DuPont pharmaceuticals, the creators of OxyContin and oxycodone and what basically started the opioid crisis was, this company is going bankrupt. The Sackler family owns the company, and in bankruptcy of the company, the judge protected the Sacklers from being financially responsible for any lawsuits that occur from the opioid crisis, from people like, hey, you guys lied and now my son's dead or whatever.
No, they just made money just like people are making money off of things that aren't vaccines that they're calling vaccines.
So, but then this week, an appeal, a second court said, no. We're scratching that part of the bankruptcy proceedings because the judge does not have the authority to protect the people that own this company from, such lawsuits. So, but the lower court, this was all over the news. Everyone's like, this is insane. This doesn't seem like it can be legal at all. And the judge was like, totally legal. So, we can see when there's billions of dollars involved that people will definitely somehow always lean towards the billionaire side of the law. That they aren't going to rule against them ever. We just
it's not the law. It's not the law, Houston. It's actually it's 18 USC 242, a civil rights violation by deprivation of civil rights. It's called color of law. They pretend, just like the Third Circuit saying the federal rules of appellate procedure don't apply to my case. If the law doesn't apply to anybody, let's go get our guns. Right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And the judge ordering the clerk to block my filing, she doesn't have the right to do that. The clerk doesn't have the right to do that. But they can get away with it, like you say, because who's going to stop them? Who's watching the watchers? And unfortunately, there's 30 or 40% of the legal industry, judges, lawyers, prosecutors. You got to admit that when Ashcroft got that $50 million no bid deferred prosecution agreement, and Polus and Yang got their $1.5 million or whatever it was sign-on bonus to be with them and doing the monitoring of the no bid deferred prosecution agreement. You can't think that the other U.S. attorneys across the country didn't go, shit, I don't have to work for 20 years. I can get paid in one. Right? It's common sense. They woke up and they're now looking for their way to do it because, again, they could always, if you say, well, we're going to bring a case against you for trying, they can always turn around and say, okay, we'll bring a case against them for doing it. They set the precedent, right? And again, justice is not a partisan concept. It doesn't matter who made them judge, who made them U.S. attorney. They swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Cooper v. Aaron is the case that backed the Brown v. Board of Education that says no judicial officer or servant of the public can turn around and make war with the Constitution without being in direct contravention of their oath to protect it, right? And that's protect us against enemies, foreign and domestic, right? We need, people don't understand. You let them bleed out $100 billion in a year or 2 years, that's $100 billion that's going into their Cayman Islands, or in Romney's case, Bermuda by San Katie, or Swiss Bank or Australia, wherever it goes, right? That's money that's being bled out of our economy and put in other safe havens that's not churning and burning. And every time they close down these 60,000 jobs, it's 250,000 jobs more. The cleaners that supported them, the houses that were going to be built, the doctors, the dentists, the lawyers, all that other stuff that was going to support those 60,000 people, that now goes away because you're allowing everything to be shrunk by the money they're bleeding out. It's not pre-rolling through the system. Just like if Biden, and this is where I'm leading to, if Biden keeps his promise to reduce the college payment back plan, that's going to free up money into the economy, right? That's going to generate more. Biden is the difference. Why we hear some quabble about the opium thing. What'd you say it was? The
Sackler family,
Yeah, right. Biden has come out and said that he's making it a priority And he didn't do just like a couple of page memo, right? He made this big, long, detailed how they were going to go after corruption everywhere and ordering everybody to do corruption. The problem is Stephen Piken, Jay Clayton, Combe Connolly, and I'll give you an example in Combe Connolly. Combe Connolly was the U.S. attorney in Delaware. When Trump was going to make him a judge again, right after eToys shareholder Robert Albert, who joined me, he thought I was part of the bad guys. He joined me. Yeah. Robert Albert was offered a bribe by Johann Hammerski, right? Johann Hammerski actually had ties to, remember that road, $10 million road to nowhere in Florida? You remember that? Right? He had ties to that. He said, my sister works in the Fed review board down there on reviewing the bank loans and stuff like that. We'll just give you an apartment complex and we'll buy it back from you for $175,000 an extra. Right? And Albert turned down, Robert Albert turned down the bribe. And he said, people like you who turn down a bribe wake up dead. Yep. Well, me and Robert Albert, after I sent in that letter to Lynch, and the whistleblower in 2016, we're going to go to Washington, D.C. together. They stopped him, Wells Fargo's accounts, that, you know, how they were playing the games with accounts. They stopped Albert and his mom's accounts from having money. He was eating dog food. He had to cry to me on the phone. I had to send him money I didn't have. I went out to people, get 20, 30, 50, and send him money so he could feed. He wound up dead, woke up dead in his bed. And the FBI calls me right after, and I think, wow, this is a Wilmington, Delaware FBI guy calling me. Yeah. Albert's dead. They're going to do something. Instead, he spends an hour threatening me that if I don't shut down my websites about it, he says the FBI in Delaware is going to prosecute me and put me in jail for life. And I said, you know, screw you and your fellow agents. I'm not doing it. Yeah. Matter of fact, every time you guys do this, like the judge that ordered me to stop it or else, I overnighted the thing to him the next day, and that's what I'm doing to you. And he turned around and said, well, Ellen Slice won't like that. I said, wait a minute. You said it was an FBI girl, right? You were lying to me. Ellen Slice is the assistant U.S. attorney of Combe Connolly that's been burying my case. You tell that bitch to stick it up her ass. And I emailed that FBI agent a thing, a very vulgar thing. I'll send it to you so you can have it for verification, but don't put it out. I emailed it to F you to all of them guys, trying to protect that FBI agent. I said, you're being played for a fool. You think you heard that I'm a career criminal. I haven't been arrested for anything since I was 19 years old, right? I'm the guy that turned down a bribe. So no matter what you say about eToys, you can call me pig shit, horse manure, you know, whatever you want to call me. It doesn't matter. I reported the bribe. They did the bribe. They confessed to their lyings under oath. If you look up the John Galene case, the book, Eat What You Kill, he went to jail for 2 lies under oath with one thing, with people that are also involved in our case, by the way. But John Galene did a year in jail. His law firm had to give all $1.9 million back. And they tried not to do it. And the judge says, okay, I'm going to pull him out of jail and have him as a witness. They gave the money the very next day. But John Galene went to jail for 2 lies. I got hundreds of them. And I got confessions. I even got confessions from Paul Traub that he admitted he deliberately left the lies in front of the court because he figured the case was over in 2003. He made that confession in 2005, and he didn't make the confession until after I proved that he was lying. Yeah. Right? And then this assistant U.S. attorney, Ellen Slice, whose husband is a judge in the Chancery Court of Delaware, if GameStop or Mattel or any of the cases wind up there, I call Delaware deal aware. And I think Biden, just like he and his son couldn't get directly involved in my case, they can't get directly involved in this case until it comes up big enough. And I'm just hoping I don't have to die to make it happen. You know, I'd like to get some recompense for the shareholders and the other victims and to stop the victimizing going on and get a little bit back for my family, even though most of my family and friends have disowned me. Yeah. My dad actually said before he died, you're an idiot. You should have taken the bribe, right? That's the way the real world works. You've known that since you were a kid. Yeah. That doesn't matter. I said no, right? And it doesn't matter why I said no. It could have been I was afraid to go to jail again. You know, one FBI agent said it was because I didn't get the same 18 million. They only offered me a few million, you know, but I didn't know that. He didn't get his bribe until 2004. Yeah. My bribe was offered to me in 2001, and I didn't negotiate it. He negotiated his. I didn't negotiate mine because I was saying no from the beginning. These things have to stop. Things have to happen, and I hope that it doesn't happen that GameStop or AMC or anybody else, all the apes are wonderful people, man. They're just wonderful people, came to my rescue, offered to give me places of shelter, offered money, offered to come down and be my security. I don't need anybody knowing where I'm at. I don't need anybody else in harm's way. I can't take it if another person gets hurt. But it has to stop. 2022, it's stopping. I'm guaranteeing you, if I have to super glue myself to the SEC door in a baby Huey diaper, Lord forbid everybody sees that on extra television, one way or the other, this is coming to an end, man. It's 20 years. Madoff took 20 years. Petters took 20 years. It's now done. All the people they bribed are over, and they're not generating new money from my cake to bribe new people. Okay. So I hope that Gensler and Biden are sincere.
I'm going to do another scroll of thank yous for donors here. Amen. Because we're talking about how great the apes are. Oh, shoot. I may have got a couple of these guys cut off here. But Jermaine Thornton, thank you. Mike Lee, thank you so much. Another anonymous. We've got another anonymous there. More anonymous donations. Another anonymous.
It's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. People get harassed when they support me.
So we're on this stream. We're at 342. We're at 369 the other one, which pushes us at 701.
Over 701. And my 100 coming tomorrow.
711. Sorry, 711. So we are $289 away from our $1,000 goal to raise money for Toys for Tots. I want to thank everybody so much for jumping in here and doing this. And I guess my next line of question for you, Laser, is so what we're seeing right now with the way the market's going. We've got like just tons of margin out there that these hedge funds are trading with. We've got China, essentially the real estate market collapsing, bonds going on, hundreds of billions of dollars of bonds going unpaid, and people are uncovering things like Goldman Sachs are over leveraged 133 to 1. So if the economy takes a big old dip and Goldman Sachs basically just evaporates from existence, kind of Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns style.
Well, that could happen with this case because they stabbed a client and did 20 years of obstruction of justice. And people are dead. Can you imagine? Goldman Sachs never paid attention to my filings. Now I showed you Goldman Sachs, U.S. Marshals, FBI. They're all looking at my postings online now where they never touched it in 20 years. If Goldman Sachs lost its right to do IPOs, that would be the death end. And they deserve to lose it because of the overt acts of obstruction and deliberately destroying a client and retaliating against a witness. I mean, it's horrific. If they did that, and again, just like if Bain Capital got all its assets seized, those assets are sellable assets. There's no reason. There's nothing like, Bear Stearns that money evaporated into the air. Sure, Goldman Sachs, when it got caught on the 1MDB, and remember, the 1MDB, they swore up and down was a single aberrant act of errant behavior. It wasn't the culture. But we now know that not to be true, right? And the stock went from 260 something down to 138. Can you imagine a fall from the 400s, how low it would go if it lost the right to do IBOs and everybody started abandoning ship? Because here's the other thing. Goldman Sachs has either told its insurance companies about me and about eToys, and they're covered on it, or they aren't. Right? Now, the insurance companies abandoned Goldman Sachs. That's how I destroy law firms. There's 6 law firms, and I'm working on my 7th, M&AT. The people are starting to abandon ship in Delaware because they're worried about Biden being sincere, cleaning up. Because, again, all 4 corrupt judges in Delaware are death for Delaware. And sooner or later, the Senate and Congress is going to have to stop the corporate dominance of Delaware. Delaware gets 80% of its budget from outside the country. If everybody flees Delaware and the courts start fleeing Delaware, Delaware's screwed. It's a nightmare for Delaware. But Biden can't get directly involved. But what he's doing is Gensler says he's going to clamp down. Again, we haven't seen it yet. I'm telling Gensler, you got to say something. I'm 65 years old, ill health. I've been in the hospital. I had my teeth knocked out, my arm broken. my head busted, people with me dead. I just can't wait any longer.
Yeah.
All you got to do to get this case going is say you're looking into eToys. The house of cards a mile high collapses. Everybody starts running for the hills. Nobody wants to be prosecuted. Everybody that can then go to the feds and confess they're part of the crime to make a deal will just make the case easier. But the assets in Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital are real. Yeah. My roommate's talking about they killed the wrong guy at where I was staying, but I can't reveal that because that'll put people on my trail. The issue is, Houston, is that if they're doing this much open, that they're doing a ton more in secret, and you only can get to that with full investigations. You can only stop the plans to scuttle stocks and do short sales and all that other stuff by doing legitimate investigations with people who, by doing this case and seeing how bad it is, where they don't go, pshaw, it can't really be that bad, but it is that bad. Yeah. And now they have to pay attention. And you make sure they're Elliot Nesses, that they can't be bribed like Combe Connolly and Marty Lackner and Stephen Pockton and Jay Clayton. I mean, you put Goldman Sachs people in charge. Jay Clayton's wife was partners of the Goldman Sachs division that stole from eToys, right? The Mergers and Acquisition Commission that stole from Mattel. So they got every motivation in the world. When I sued them, they should have immediately got an independent thing from the public integrity section, right? But that didn't happen. The public integrity, the Office of Professional Responsibility, the Office of Inspector General, they all blow me off, which means they're not looking at the evidence. Yeah. You don't need me. You don't need discovery. You don't need interrogatories. You don't need admissions. I got enough to put dozens of people in jail for 1,000 years if you do your job. And you can't let Goldman Sachs not have somebody go to jail for this. You can't have their law firms not have somebody go to jail for this.
Yeah. So Goldman Sachs, if the economy does take a big old dump, which is what a lot of these analysts are predicting, their forecasters are saying we're just going to have a good traction. So if Goldman Sachs goes under as a result of this, does the pathway of these bribes disappear?
No. Corruption's been around for all ages, right? The thing is, the public has to get involved. The apes were wonderful, and then the apes and mods, Pink Cat's lady on acid did an Ask Me Anything session. Mm-hmm. Got tremendous response. And then people actually came on there and said, I'm not a whistleblower. How am I not a whistleblower? I'm in court records. I got SEC whistleblower cases. You don't have the right to say that. But they quashed the conversation. And I know for every comment you see, there's hundreds of people that aren't commenting. Yeah. But those people have to get anonymously involved. They have to put up blogs and take them down and say, why aren't people looking at this? And why aren't people looking at this? And why you got to help for every whistleblower case. And this is what Tom Mueller, he wrote the book, Crisis of Conscience, about whistleblower cases, but he wrote it about ones that have already been settled. The ones that settled, the people don't want to hear that. That's why his book didn't get big response. He got much more personal attention for doing something that nobody else does, what he should have been doing, and he didn't have to do my case. My girlfriend is a federal judge, Mary Elizabeth Bullock. They won't let her have her bar card back out of retirement because California law says that I can be a lawyer in training under her and go into court. Yeah. So they're stopping a woman who is deathly ill for years now, right? The joy of my life. Right? They're stopping her from having the thing that she loves most, which could also help her help other people. She can't go into court for other victims that come to her all the time. She's in tears because they won't let her help other people because they're oppressing her. And a judge ordered that she gets her bar card reinstated. But the people, this asinine guy, I don't want to say his name wrong, but the asinine guy at the bar that's made a personal vendetta against her, the clerk with him says they don't have the process to do it. Bullshit. You just hand her a bar card back. The judge ordered it. Yeah. They said he's retired. That doesn't matter. He didn't order the process. He ordered her to get it back. Richard Fine, a great international lawyer, right? He sued California judges for getting money illegally, right? Extra money above the constitutional limits. And he was right. Schwarzenegger, as governor, had a pardon, but they took his bar card away under false pretense, right? Yeah. They ostracize and destroy the people that are telling the truth. Melanie Boltner, Mary Ellen Belding, she was against Cuomo. Cuomo hugged her and said he was going to help her, and the people that helped her stole in her name. And then they prosecuted her when she blew the whistle, right? You can go see her on Twitter, right? Christine Michelle Chadwick. There's so many people out there that need help with their cases. That's the only way. If we don't do unity, the corrupts, the cronies, the rottens, the Machiavellians, they're in unity against us. They're stealing our money and using 1% of it to bury us. Yeah. We don't have the money that they've stolen back. If I had my money, don't you think I'd fund it tomorrow? That's why they can never let me have it, right? If I win my case tomorrow, they got more motivation to kill me because I've shut down law firms with no money. Yeah. I put people in jail with no money. What do you think I'd do if I was funded? Yeah. Right? It would be a whole different world. So the people got to get together and care. They got to realize when they're stealing tens of billions of dollars here and there, stopping their minimum wage, it's assault on you. Yeah. It's not partisan. It's what's right. There's nobody there that can look you in a straight face and say, I can live on $7 an hour. You can't do that on our roads. You can't do that in our schools. You can't do that with a doctor, right? You can't even pay Medicare 10, 20% deductibles on $7 an hour, right? Yeah. You know, you got to have 8 people live in the house, right? That's a nightmare. Nobody wants to do that. We shouldn't be that way in America. No. The other argument about that is we should have smalling liver spaces. They have condos 200 square feet in New York and, you know, so forth. We should have apartments that way for single people. The thing is that you got to get together. We've got to band together. There's a website called howtowinIncourt.com by Professor Graves. He teaches lawyers how to win in court. You can see it for free, but it turned my 200-page rants into 40-page briefs that kicked ass. Yeah. Right? You know, the first thing anybody should do in a legal document is to define breach, define cure. The classic law argument is the guy's mowing your lawn. You want him to go left to right. He goes side to side. You tell him to stop it and do the other way. And he says, well, pay me more to go back over it. You say, no, he quits. Who's owed money? Yeah. Neither one of them, because they didn't define what breach is and they didn't define cure. Everything you do, you walk into McDonald's, they're an offer to sell. You walk in, you're offering to buy. You order on the menu, they give you on your menu, you give them money on there. That's the bill of sale. You check your food before you leave the counter. You complain before you leave. If not, you have to go in court. They can't arrest you or McDonald's. Yeah. It's now you accepted the contract bill of sale, right? So Legal 101 should be taught to all kids in school. Ethics should be taught to all kids in school. Human enlightenment is being deprived. It's not critical race theory. Nobody's asking anybody to teach theory. We just want 10% of it to be facts about what non-whites have contributed to. Yeah. Stop all the bullshit. You can have your theory. We want facts to be talking in the history of the schools, right? We need to fight. And you don't have to pick a dozen things. Pick one. Pick one thing and dedicate yourself to it. Become an expert in it. Yeah. Turn around and help other people about it. It makes you a better human being, and you're making a difference.
Amen.
It's,
Can
I say one thing about eToys?
Yes.
You know, before we finish, I wrote an article recently. It's on Medium, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. It's called "The 7 Sins of Goldman Sachs Mandating a RICO Indictment." Listen to this. Goldman Sachs defrauded eToys. That's already a fact. Rigging the IPO game, you can read the details. They underallocated the stock, and they stole from their client. They had a contractual obligation. All they could make was $1.50. They made more. Whatever they made, they got to give back. And whoever profited that, it's a standard legal doctrine of all Ponzi schemes. You can't profit from fraud. Yeah. Right? So all the people, and I got the list of the original shareholders. The ones that made the profit off the scheme have to give the money back. The ones that got shorted and the ones that bought when Toby Link said in December, everything's going to work out, he was lying. He already knew that they were going to file bankruptcy. Yeah. eToys, by the way, wasn't broke. They lied. They tricked it. Mattel had to file bankruptcy creditors claims against eToys, eToys of Europe, eToys of Canada, PM Kids, Babies R Us. So they filed each of their $10 million claims against each one. So Mattel looked like $100 million claim.
Yeah.
And Hasbro did the same with its junior companies, you know. And so by filing it 10 times the amount, they said they had $290 million they owed. Yeah. They had that amount of money. I had to merge with Scholastic. I had to merge with another guy with buying Placo retail stores, right? I had a deal with Amazon. I was working with Amazon. I was telling Amazon that because when they went public, they were hurting because it was mostly books that they were selling, and it wasn't generating enough money because books were going digital too. And I told them, you can be calling the toy warehouse manufacturer for all the toy companies. That no matter, it's going to eventually wind up Sears, KB, eToys, Kmart, Target, whoever buys from Walmart online is going to buy from you.
Yep.
So you warehouse their stuff and you get paid the commission you design on their stuff. They have to price it your way. Unfortunately, I think I may have laid out the plot because remember, Larry Reynolds is seeing all my stuff. Yeah. Right? Okay. And Larry Reynolds, I sold eToys.com to KB for $10 million. They reduced it to $3 million, but they only reduced it to $3 million. It would have went cheaper because I put 3 invoices on my desk to companies that I was going to send it out and ask them to bid around $3 million each. Yeah. Because that same copy was on the chairman of the creditor's desk, and those two things verified it to each other. Holy shit, we're going to lose it come Monday. The whole reason we're buying the toys is to get those 8 million buyers that eToys has established. They bid 2.95 million. They stopped rising the price. But after they kicked me out, I don't know if they reduced that or not, right? Because Barry Gold was in charge of that. But anyway, so Goldman Sachs defrauds eToys its client IPO. Then Goldman Sachs lawyer, right, and Bain Capital and Partnership defraud Mattel of $4 billion. Now they're inside there and they're doing pressure on the industry to withdraw credit, right? So eToys and FAO and all the other ones go bankruptcy. But M&AT is the one that handled the Mattel and never disclosed that. That's still a crime today. And the judge opinion said in eToys a comfort order. If there's any other conflicts, I'm going to reopen the case. But I can't reopen the case because she's blocking me. And I can't use my girlfriend's bar card to do it. Nobody in Delaware will do it because they'll ostracize and destroy them. So M&AT puts the non-broke eToys into bankruptcy. With M&AT and Paul Traub pretending that they're direct partners. And then when the bribery doesn't work on me, that they probably were going to use me as a fall guy. Good thing I didn't take the bribery. It's a good thing that they didn't show me that the judge is signing off on it and make the paperwork disappear. Because if I was them, I would have done that and buried me in the ocean, and they never would have had all the odds that I've given them over 20 years. But they replaced me with Barry Gold, right? So they destroy eToys books and records. So M&AT, Goldman Sachs lawyer, right, as part of Mattel, as part of Goldman Sachs Bain Capital, and Goldman Sachs is the one that defrauds eToys stock, and then they illegally put eToys into bankruptcy, but to destroy the books and records while they're committing perjury, right? Again, compounding the crimes, compounding the sentencing. And here's another thing. The U.S. trustee guy, the first one, actually put in a disgorge motion of Paul Traub saying that he perpetrated fraud on the court, that Paul Traub asked permission to replace me, and he was specifically told not to replace me with anybody connected to him because it would be a conflict of interest crime. And conflict of interest crimes are racketeering crimes, right? So Paul Traub did it in secret. He gave Barry Gold a hiring letter with him and M&AT saying that Barry Gold would be the president and CEO when I was the president and CEO. But what they did is they didn't put in the paperwork saying that I was technically president and CEO. They said that my firm was hired.
It's like consultant or?
Yeah, I was a liquidation consultant. Collateral Logistics Incorporated was the firm, but M&AT was court ordered to be my attorney, CLI's attorney, eToys attorney. And what it did is M&A attorney conspired to have two presidents and CEO. And that's another thing that the bankruptcy law doesn't allow. And they did this when the U.S. trustee program told them not to do that very thing. And they only confessed it after they got caught, when they thought they were getting away with it, and also did the fraud over in the KB case. Now in KB, I got the email because people in the Department of Justice, the Bidens and everybody else were helping. And I got the email to the director of the United States Trustee Program, which is the number 3 person in the Department of Justice, because he's so high up there handling the million cases of bankruptcy each year that's worth 500 million or more. I mean, 500 billion or more. And get this, another thing in the system is U.S. Trustee Program is temporary. So they have to do what the lawyers want because they get voted on whether they have a job next year or not. So he turned around and made up phony cases against somebody else and let them off in my case. But he emailed me. I got it. Laser Haas. I assure you we're on top of it, that our staff can handle it. But he did a Eric Holder thing. He said, but sometimes the cases we individually can't handle, have to look at the broader picture. Bullshit. You know, you punish each crime. You don't let somebody rob 3 banks, and when he robbed the 4th one, saying it's too big, we just need him to give half the money back because it'll hurt the insurance company, right? You know, they need to write better insurance company policies or do better reserves or whatever. Yeah. But so you have M&AT, Goldman Sachs doing the fraud against eToys, right, on the IPO, doing the fraud of illegally putting them into bankruptcy, doing the fraud of destroying the books and records. So there'll be no emails, but fortunately we got the one, the smoking gun, that the New York Times reports about, that the Lawton Fitt emailed a bet the stock would hit 80. So that's proof right there, right? And then we got the retaliation and intimidation against victim and witness. Both of them, 1512 and 1513, are racketeering crimes. If you look under the RICO Act, predicate acts, 18 U.S.C. 1961. Right? The retaliation and intimidation of me and the eToys shareholders that were trying to get the equity committee, and then putting in Barry Gold. And again, each one of these lawyers, the creditor's attorney lawyers, is supposed to ask for prosecution of Barry Gold and M&AT. And M&AT is supposed to ask for prosecution of Traub and Barry Gold. And Barry Gold's supposed to ask for they didn't. They circled the wagons around each other because they knew they held Colm Connolly, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, had their back. And Stephen Piken up in Southern District of New York had their back, right? So they kept doing the crimes until I reported it. By the way, that's when Stephen Piken, just like Colm Connolly, became partners of M&AT, right? And then he went back and became U.S. attorney over the cases. Stephen Piken left the Southern District of New York SEC Task Force Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office, and he became a partner of Sullivan and Cromwell, the #1 law firm for Goldman Sachs in the world, in New York City, right? So now they've got the case buried again by these guys, and again, Ellen Slights is still there, or she was at last time I checked a couple of months ago, is still there protecting eToys from being prosecuted in Delaware. And Stephen Piken and Jay Clayton, you got to be aware that they've let people that are tearing Gary Gensler that I'm full of shit. Put me in jail. If one thing I'm saying is a lie, put me in jail, right? I'll go in there willingly. You prove one thing that's a lie, right? I damn near cut my arm off to get this case done, right? The only reason I need the typing. But the thing is, this shit has to stop. Trump didn't do nothing. He actually had golf with Jay Clayton, talked about Jay Clayton becoming the Southern District. Glad they stopped it. It seems like there's a line that the people know this shit's going too far and we have to rein it in. This case is the one case the good old boys have gone too far. They turned around. They retaliated against me. eToys shareholder Robert Albert is dead. A dozen other people are dead, including the brother of a U.S. attorney, the guy that built the Vietnam Memorial. That deserves its own task force. One person, coincidence. Two, not a dozen. Give me a break. They're all 1 degree away from me, right? Directly involved with me in this case. And then the final thing is that the New York Supreme Court of Appeals said the case could be reopened. With all the evidence I just told you about, it's a slam dunk, $1 billion minimum. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. Right?
Okay. If what I'm saying is true, and if I'm saying a lie, I've sent this to the FBI. Put me in jail for life.
Yep.
But if everything I'm saying is true and all these crimes are true, Goldman Sachs owns a minimum of $1 billion, and Bain Capital, KB&M own a minimum of $1 billion to eToys, right? Because I had a $395 million deal when they took it away from me.
Yep.
And the people that took it away from me, that quashed the merger with Scholastic, you can look it up online, and quashed the mergers I had with Playco. Playco turned down the case, said that they wouldn't allow the Playco stores to be merged with eToys online for the guy that wanted to keep the public company going. Well, Bain Capital doesn't like public companies. Remember the Toys R Us reverse merger, take the public company away and have the bankruptcy of the non-public company, right? Yeah. Well, Playco, it turns out, I find out later, was a Paul Traub case in New York. So he was hurting his clients there, right, and his clients in eToys by not letting an independent turn around and review the case. Yeah. And Paul Traub is the one that helped in Tom Petter's Ponzi, the control partner. How do you be a control partner of a dozen people go to jail and you don't get indicted?
Yep.
And you're listed by, and get this, Tom Petter's attorney, Doug Kelly, wound up being the receiver of the Tom Petter cases, right? Who didn't indict. And he was a former assistant U.S. attorney, where they didn't let me know James Lagner, the assistant U.S. attorney, head of the criminal division over Petter's Ponzi, brother was involved in $2 billion feeder fund. And Petter's Ponzi says there's only $2 billion, $3.7 billion.
Yeah.
I got him to confess years later it was over $40 billion.
Whew.
Right? When do you see the feds downplay how much the severity of what they arrested?
Yeah.
That's because they're involved in stealing the money. Because Doug Kelly, Tom Petter's attorney, wound up being the prosecutor of Tom Petter's and Paul Traub. And he didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, they seized Polaroid that Tom Petter's bought with Ponzi money and sold it back to Paul Traub. They stopped everybody else from bidding, stopped the bidding at $83 million when there was $2 billion in assets there. And they stopped it at $83 million, and they sold it to Paul Traub and Gordon Brothers. And Gordon Brothers immediately made him a partner over Polaroid. And I got that copy. They can't take that away, though they did kick him out, right? But Fingerhut, remember I told you about Fingerhut? They settled it, and then they bought it with Tom Petter's Ponzi Monday, right? Well, right before the FBI arrested Paul Traub, okay? Not Paul Traub, Tom Petter's. Okay. Right before they raided him in September 2008, a month before, Paul Traub flies in and changes the ownership to Fingerhut. Goldman Sachs, and I got the articles, Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital gave $50 million to Fingerhut, and they changed the ownership. Now, with all the evidence I gave you, that alone is enough for a crime. But then Doug Kelly doesn't seize Fingerhut.
Yeah.
Right? With Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital, and because they're involved in the crimes in Minnesota and in Delaware and in Texas and in California, that's racketeering nationwide. And in every one of those cases, you got a federal prosecutor that's not doing their job. They're so willfully blind, they should be thrown in the ocean as shark bait.
Yeah.
Right? On top of that, they turn around and settle eToys' case where they promised they would protect the shareholders. So that elevates their fiduciary duty, correct?
Yep.
Right? When they block them from having their civil rights and they say they got their back, and then the New York Supreme Court says that I can turn around and have the case reopened, and they rush to settle the obvious billion-dollar case for only $7.5 million, that the idiots, if they had given some money, $10 for 100 shares to people, instead, the lawyers kept it. So because they can get away with every crime they can, and that's not the only one. When they filed bankruptcy, they had cash deposits overseas. I reported that. Not disclosing assets in bankruptcy is automatic jail time. But David Haddad, the vice president that stayed when Toby Link and Stephen Schock left. When I came in, Toby Link that founded eToys left. And the David Haddad and David Gatto stayed. And David Haddad was a Mattel guy. It was a Mattel guy that came over to eToys, right? They keep it all in that inner circle. So you bust this one case, you're busting dozens. And I'm sorry that they complain that that's too big to fail and too big to jail. That's just too damn bad. Yeah. You can't set the precedent that they can get away with hundreds of crimes and billions of dollars and people dead and let it go.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the entire system is now designed to specifically destroy companies and pull as much capital out of them as they can, and then move on to the next one.
Martin Sears.
Yeah, And
Paul Traub was involved there.
You know,
right?
we
Kmart gone, Sears is gone.
Yeah, we can look at hundreds of companies that this has happened to.
If you follow these people, does a tiger change his stripes?
Exactly. No, they just do the same thing over and over again because it works. So
right, because they're guaranteed. Again, if you're Al Capone with Frank Nitti, right, you'll be he's probably crying in his grave right now. He didn't think about being retroactively retired from his organized crimes, right? You know, or be brazen enough to have Frank Nitti be the prosecutor. Yeah. You know, he bribed the jury, but if he had bribed the prosecutor, they never would have switched the jury. Yeah. You know, so again, it's genius business, but it's illegal. Yeah. And it's so big. Again, you know, I want money back, but I'd give up money in a heartbeat. You know what I'd take instead of money? Right? I'd live on potatoes and bologna for the rest of my life and sleep in the basement of the Southern District, New York, U.S. Attorney's Office. Make me U.S. Attorney. Yeah. I'll stay away from these cases, but I'll have people assigned in the public integrity section and in other units. All this shit will stop in a heartbeat. There'll be so many congressional hearings that they'll have a dozen new laws. Yeah. You know, and they'll say, you know, you can't do the Bain. You know, you can't do the Bain, or you can't do the Sachs, like they say Bork. Yeah. You can't be Borked. You can't be Sachs, or you can't be Bain. You know, right? Because again, I'm so mad because again, when that rigging the IPO game, and I'm going to show you this. You know, I got 20 years in my head. I'm sorry, but when rigging the IPO game came out, you know what else was going on? They were trying to take Toys R Us public again. Yeah. And I made such a stink about it that 3 weeks after the New York Times article came out, Bain Capital canceled the IPO. That's cause and effect, right? I'm here begging people to tell the story, understanding that people can't tell the story because of retaliation. But there needs to be a team together. Matt Taibbi and David Seorder and Greg Palast and Lee Camp, if they all got together and did it at once, they couldn't be destroyed. Once they all four went out there, if they did it in conjunction, remember how they did the Panama Papers and these new papers, how they did it with 100 reporters? If you do it with enough people and it's big enough that everybody deserves the glory. This is a type of case. Granted, they didn't jail anybody over the Panama Papers, but they have to jail people about this. Yeah. There's people dead. Companies gone, bribery and corruption. It has to end.
So how would we get those documents out to all these to a group of
the documents are already out there. I've got them out there all over the place, and I'm putting them on religiously. People tell you should be quiet. You know, only do one thing every 6 months, because there is one thing that's axiomatic. Because people talk to me, I can't be the level that I am. Yeah. You'll see trolls and shills on Reddit lie and say he can't be a CEO, right? Because his education level, there's plenty of CEOs of big billion-dollar companies that never graduated school, right? You know, we have lessons about it all the time, right? He can't be a CEO. He was a janitor. What facts do they have? None, right? Again, I wrote the Attorney General of the United States a letter and sent it to the FBI. You know, by Martha Stewart, you can't lie to the FBI. I've got a criminal record. If I've lied once, they can put me in jail for life. Do it. Yeah. At least this case will get into court, right? You know, what we need to do, what people need to be paying attention to is Steven Donziger. They got behind, and we got him out of jail. You know, Susan Sarandon and the other people. God bless her heart, and the lawyers, you know, got behind them, and the international bar associations. Once a group of people, once a law professor, lawyer, judge, former prosecutor, they all turn around and say, this is a crime. I don't care what they say about Laser. That was bribery. That was fraud and bankruptcy. That needs to be investigated. And again, there's no statute of limitations. Capone can't have Frank Nitti rigged to be prosecutor of Capone and then say, I'm protected by the Constitution that I attacked. Yeah. Right? Okay? You can't do that corruption. You can't retroactively retire from your organized crimes. Right? We can't have federal prosecutors protecting their wives. Clay Clayton protected his wives' division of Goldman Sachs. and all our profit. Now, the wonderful thing that's encouraging is Biden says, and Gensler says, they're going to start going after the money these guys made on fraud. Instead of fining the company, which the shareholders have to pay, they're going to start fining the people and jailing the people, make them pay the consequence. Because there's a wonderful judge in New York who wrote a book about it. You know, why big people get out of jail free cards. It's because nobody's got the balls to do it. We got plenty of laws.
Yeah.
I can name them all. You know, bribery, collusion, bankruptcy fraud, every time they mailed out a check or wired money on settling the claims. If you look at the Stage Stores case, this is another scheme to just show you there are hundreds of them. In Stage Stores, Liquidity Solutions was co-debtor of the Stage Stores bankruptcy. I got the proof.
Yep.
When I said to the clerk, right, I need to file on that, she redacted it. You're not allowed to redact anything that's put onto a case docket.
Yeah.
Right? But as soon as Barry Gold was snuck into eToys, who came from Stage Stores, with Paul Traub, Michael Grazer, and Bain Capital, all came over to eToys and then lied and said they weren't together, right? Liquidity Solutions started to buy up eToys claims. Now, creditors don't abandon claims because if they made abandoning claims, everybody filed bankruptcy quicker.
Yeah.
They always stay in with counsel, right? So they do it by joint creditors counsel, right? And now buying creditors' claims is so big that firms manage all the creditors, right, by different people representing them, but it's the same people who are tied to the people who buy the claim. Now, the law says you have to disclose when you have a connection to the claim.
Yeah.
Even a debtor can buy the claim so that they can do more votes about staying alive, but you can't make profit from it. So if you get the case for free, you don't get a penny.
Yeah.
But Barry Gold paid people on those bought out claims. A matter of fact, in one of the cases, a lawyer for Paul Traub, Frederick Rosner, raised his hand up for the creditor and raised his hand up for the debtor, saying to the judge, we don't want the settlement to go through, right? Because he was representing the creditor Barry Gold liquidation universe side of it. Yeah. And he was representing the regular creditors on the side of getting the benefit of that claim being paid. Right? This shit just goes on and on.
Conflict of interest seems to run as a thread through all of it.
And it's a crime, but the people, they use soft vernacular in it. The U.S. trustee that said, the assistant U.S. trustee, Frank Perch, who said in the disgorge motion of Traub, Bonnequist, and Fox, that he forewarned them not to do the crime of replacing me, right? Mm-hmm. That they went ahead and did in secret and only confessed after I caught him, right? So there's no way that they have any excuse to get off there. And he concluded that it was fraud on the court. They let him go, right? That's what they do. Anybody that does a decent job, they create dirt or find dirt, or they congratulate and promote off like they did Ron Gardella. When he was looking into the case for Preet Bharara's office, Ron Gardella got promoted off to a new division of the OIG, which shows the internal workings of D.C. are involved with it, which means you have to clean house. You have to wipe the slate clean of all those entrenched people.
How do we get there? How do we get to the point where we can clean house?
Well, if this case comes out and it gets looked at fully, it'll show how much it is. And the other cases, Stage Stores, FAO, Zany Brainy, Mattel has to go down if this case comes out. Yep. And I'm going to give you a name that's going to blow your mind.
Okay.
You know who's the advisor to Mattel?
No.
Thomas Lee Partners. And that's the name I gave to the SAC. Yeah. Right? Thomas Lee Partners is Mattel's advisor. Thomas Lee Partners was partners with Goldman Sachs, Bain Capital, Mitt Romney's signature of merging the learning company with Mattel that lost $4 billion. Mm-hmm. So how does the advisor of Mattel, right, get away with being partners in the company that defrauded Mattel stockholders for $4 billion? Because they got Combe Connolly in Delaware and Stephen Piken in New York. So if you take those people out and you put Elliot Nessus in their place, right, the bullshit stops.
Yeah.
Again, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Once you have somebody that's decent in the job.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a pause so I can do the tally here so far.
Come on, 1,000, 1,000.
Oh, no. So with 519. Okay, we raised $888 so far with the previous mistake of a show and the 519 here. So I'm going to go through and try to get some thank yous done. We got another anonymous. Thank you so much. Come on, chat. Of course, the chat resets, and I might be missing some people here. This is the second anonymous. Anonymous is really popular today. Bremen 266 and the Potheads cartoon mellow out. Thank you for your donations. We got Bin Fan. Thank you so much. So we have $112 to go to reach our $1,000 goal in the day and raise some money for Toys Tots.
You're sticking it to Bain Capital and Goldman Sachs if you do this.
Yes. Right. And help the kids get access to toys. I mean, think about it from the perspective of growing up when you guys were kids, right? You would go to the mall with your parents. You go to downtown, and there'd be a toy store, and you'd like tug on their sleeve, like, I want that. I want to go in here, look at this. I want to play with the Brio train set or whatever. And kids aren't getting that experience anymore. There's no tangible ability for them to like touch and hold the toy and see it ahead of time. So they're on YouTube watching these unboxing videos of other kids pulling apart toys because they don't get that visceral experience of actually handling them anymore. Because all these companies have been absolutely just destroyed by this vulture capitalism that has plagued America.
60,000 jobs gone. Right? Yeah.
They got 60,000 jobs gone, so they got a bunch of kids that didn't get toys with the Christmas tree because their parents got laid off from these companies. It's
you know what I used to do before I ran eToys? I used to take my kids in and give them $50 each. I'd line them up in front of Toys R Us, just randomly out of the blue, not on their birthday, all at separate times, sometimes before Christmas, sometimes midsummer. I'd line them up with $50 each and say, you got 30 minutes. Right? You can put your money together and buy something. You can put it all together. You don't have to put it together. You say no, then you're not part of the buy-in of other things. If you got something you're a little bit short of, you can come back. And 30 minutes starts now. 1, 2, 3, go. The manager actually thought at some of the stores that the Nationwide store done a contest without informing them, right? Because other people started mimicking it. It was so much fun. They're deprived of that now. There's nowhere. This is the one thing that got pointed out to me by apes that I hadn't thought of. That my helping Amazon think about being the warehouse for all the toys nationwide, which would save. See, what they do is they ship in toys all year long because they can't ship them in 1 month for Christmas.
Yep.
Right. So they stockpile them all year long, and that's why there's toy dating all year long. But that's a burden in today's high-end real estate markets for both
all that delivery on demand and that stuff. Yeah.
Right. The warehousing, the extra personnel that you don't need. And so between me informing Amazon and Schwab and all them who are reading my files over at the other place with Larry Reynolds, right? The same time, Amazon, Bain Capital, and Goldman Sachs could be involved in stock-wise, partnership-wise, by getting rid of all these big box retailers. You know what you stop? Competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Only the mom and pops are out there pricing it, paying regular wholesale.
Yeah.
Now everybody has to pay regular wholesale. That's motivation for Mattel. That's motivation for Hasbro, who's also been quiet about this. They know what's going on, right? And so all that's gone. All the labor cost is now labor cost that's already there for Amazon, right?
Yep.
So you're not paying those 60,000 jobs. They're already inside Amazon doing the work. And Amazon's getting all the sales that all these companies aren't out there giving anymore.
Yep.
And you got to admit, there's a certain joy you want on certain products that you pick it up there. You want your bike assembled in front of you. You want to see it without a dent. You want to see the chain and the brake work. Right?
Yep.
Which is an option you had at Toys R Us you don't get,
Yeah.
With Amazon. It comes in the box. Unless Amazon's going to start having people pay to assemble it at your house.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the last thing you want to do is invite the beast into your home. It's a terrible state of affairs. And again, they did it with Kmart. They did it with Sears. Goldman Sachs was involved in the bond thing in Puerto Rico that Trump bailed them out first. Yeah. We don't know where this goes. Germany, Malaysia, all these other countries and things that these schemes are going on. We can stop this. And then that $1 trillion will become part of the regular economy. Everybody will live better.
Yeah. We just crossed the $1,000 threshold. We got.
Yay! Thank you, people. Thank you,
yes.
people. Thank you, people. I'm still giving my $100 to them.
Yeah. So we're at 1,041 so far on the day. Carlos Rayo Cruz, thank you. Bleezy Trades, Anonymous, Justin Keefe, Javi A. Goodness gracious. Thank you so much. We're at 672 on this stream, so we got $1,000 in toys basically going to kids for this holiday season, and that's fantastic. Okay, what I'm going to do, Laser, is I'm going to open up, because I've not been able to really keep up on the chat at all. Do people have any specific questions for you? Let's see what we get here. So if folks have specific questions for Laser for about any of this, I mean, it's a lot to take in. I feel like I need to like a whiteboard with a flow chart so I can keep track of
20 years.
Yeah.
Again, all you people are here before everybody else. You need to applause yourself, and you need to applaud yourself. So many people that I was willing to talk to, wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't willing to talk to anybody, but an ape recommended you. And even when others badmouth you, I said, well, they say plenty of shit about me. I'm going to judge the guy on the interview. And so far, you're 5 stars in my book.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Get it got from Reddit. He's the one that got me in contact with you.
Wonderful person. Wonderful person. Because I didn't even know who you were until then.
Oh, he's done marvelous DD, especially on Sears and everything too. So if he's on the show today, thank you, Get It Got, for getting us in contact. I'll
definitely thank him when we're off the air.
I feel like that there's like an entire novel worth of information that's been dumped on me, and I'm just drowning in it at the moment.
It's the War and Peace series. Yeah. It's 20 years. I can document 311 crimes. Yeah. I don't need to document 312. The first 10 demand indictments.
Okay, so I guess people right at the back, people want to know what your opinion is on the potential for MOAS with all the meme stocks that is happening. So I don't know how.
Well, I'm deeply concerned. concerned. Again, this is making people aware of how many Machiavellian schemes go on behind the thing. They could be pumping your stock one day so that they can dump it tomorrow. You got to pay attention to what's going on. You have to have common sense. Yeah. And remember, many of the apes I owe to Dr. Suzanne Trimbath.
Yep.
I don't know if
rad.
Yeah. They attack her all the time. She made me aware of stuff that I'm not aware of, that they turn around and vote your shares illegally against you.
Yeah.
That they vote shares that don't exist, that they sell and trade your shares if you're not paying attention to your paperwork with your permission or illegally without your permission. Doing this DT due diligence of getting your shares physical is a must. Yeah. You got to pay attention to all these things. If you're lazy about your major investment, they'll be glad to take it from you.
Yep. Yeah, people are starting to say, like, hey, take screenshots of your brokerage account every day to make sure everything's lined up the way it should be.
Stay on top of it. On LinkedIn, you should follow Robert Wyatt. He had evidence glaring that they forged paperwork, and FINRA and the SEC still ruled against them. Yeah. They let forged paperwork be in the system. If it goes to Delaware, if this case goes to Delaware, MOAS, GME, AMC, any of the things you're invested in, you're screwed. Yeah. Right? You're done. It's toast. Right? You should immediately convince your CEO at the next stockholder meeting to move the corporation to another state where they can control it. Yeah.
States have similar kind of tax laws. I know Wyoming is a big one for that. South Dakota. other ones that you don't have, like Delaware is the one people move to because that's one that always traditionally sort of served these shell
That's the excuse
corporations
to get it there, that they're the lowest, but you're still paying. You still have to. This is the bullshit.
Yeah.
You still have to pay taxes in your state.
Yep. Yeah.
You're not, the corporation tax is one thing in there. And if the states wanted you to turn around and be there with you, they could make an exemption,
Yeah.
One time or one thing or balance it out. The state, they still have to pay taxes in their state.
Yeah.
You can't evade that entirely.
Yeah.
So that's a bullshit scheme that the Delaware corrupt courts want so that they can do their deals with the locked up courts, because everybody says, well, the judge, you look it up on Wikipedia, the judge ruled that Paul Traub and Barry Gold were okay.
Yeah.
Well, the judge ruled against the law. But just because the judge says it doesn't make it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I got a question here. Where'd it go? So this is from Alex. How prominent is this vulture capitalism, and what are some of the signs that a company is under attack?
This thing cracks me up. My roomie used to be a diehard Rush Limbaugh fan, and I'd walk away from him. I'd say I'd have to move out. When you talk about, he's a union guy that gets union retirement, and he says, we don't need a minimum wage. I said, you can say that the moment you tear up your retirement checks. Yep. Right? You want to tear up your retirement checks and throw away 2/3 of your monthly income, then I'll listen to you. Until then, you're full of shit. Right? And the people that argue for stuff of not paying taxes, of not paying their share, don't drive on our roads. Move out to Montana, move to Canada, move to Alaska and live in the woods, with the bears, where you only pay for the plane to come in for you, right? But you have to pay your share of taxes. You have to pay your part. Now, we all should do, I don't like, what's his name with the electronic cars?
Oh, Elon Musk?
Yeah. I'm okay with him not paying taxes, income taxes, because he only pays himself with stock, and stock has a flat rate for anybody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is. I don't believe in inheritance tax. Nobody small or large, and I'm losing my voice, nobody small or large should pay taxes all their life, and just because they're over 2.5 million now have to give it away. Yeah. The family has to sell it because the business doesn't have any cash, so it has to dump everything, which now makes it less than the 2.5 million, and they're paying taxes on what it was. Yeah. That's bullshit, right? But pay your fair share of taxes. Just do it as tax avoidant. What Musk does is tax avoidant. Yeah. He's an asshole for the way he talked about Bernie Sanders. So I listen to him less. But he's wonderful and going out on his own and doing things and bucking the system, just like Mark Cuban does things on his own. I was in his corner when the SEC went after him. And I wish I had met him. I helped Curtis Mathis from going under. I brought him back to life in 1996. You have to pay your fair share, people. But you're allowed to do avoidance. Deduct the room in your house for your business. Yeah. It doesn't say it has to make money every month, right? Just use a portion of your house.
Yeah, this room right here is tax deductible.
Huh?
This room right here is tax deductible. Yeah.
Be smart. Yeah. Dude, it takes extra work, but do it. It's what pays it off. Right now, though, the standard deduction, is more double what we used to have. So that may not work out. Yeah. So you make the one thing about having a business, you pay $1,200 in it, but if you're using your computer and your workstation stuff, you get a $75,000 or $100,000 minimum deduction every year. Yeah. So that's bought and paid for from the deduction, right? Yeah. You don't have to pay taxes on it being in your business. Use your head, people. Work extra to keep extra.
Okay.
Nothing's easy in life.
We got a little off because they were asking, what's the sign of a company that might be under vulture capitalism attack?
Well, no, the socialism thing is what I'm saying.
Vulture capitalism. I don't know if you heard that correctly.
Okay,
Oh,
no, say
yeah.
that again.
Okay, so they're asking how prominent is the vulture capitalism, like the Bains of the world? How prominent is it, and what are the signs that one of these companies is under attack, like eToys or someone that might be modern today?
Hello,
Yeah.
every friggin' company they touch.
Okay.
They're not there to turn around and make 3% annual dividends.
Yeah.
When Bain Capital buys something for 100 million and sells it for 2 billion, who got screwed?
Yeah.
Was the people running it idiots? Sue them and take them for everything they got.
Yeah.
This stuff is bullshit. Everything Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital touches should be scrutinized.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, if Bain Capital has like breathed on it, they are probably under this attack.
Bain Capital Ventures, Bain Capital Virgin Islands, San Katie 1, San Katie 3. You know, they do all this shit with names. Me and my partner did a legal game. My partner was a retired vice president of ITT Finance Worldwide. Because I had a criminal record, we never wanted to talk about me. He was my poster child on the cover of the brochure. So he would solicit bids as collateral control.
All right.
I was collateral logistics.
Yep.
I would do stuff in my name, my company that took all the risks once he got us in the door. I'm the one signing the contracts. They didn't care. They already bought the team, right? And I was the brains that got it done. You know, the one thing that I got ruined, I was about to sign a $5 million a year deal with Deutsche Bank in Germany. I didn't know I had a link to Jewish heritage until I was at eToys. I found out that my real grandmother was actually dead when my mom born, and who I thought was my real grandmother was my step-grandmother, right? So I started donating to synagogues and meeting with rabbis, and I didn't know if Germany would reject me now, me finding out too, because you have to investigate me. When you find something that big, they already knew about my criminal record, but would Germany reject me do all the work and the expense because, you know, I'm now got Jewish heritage. And then Deutsche Financial Services, who they were going to pay me the $5 million a year to handle, did another $50 million loan on an empty building. And so they had to sell out. They sold out to Transamerica. And then my partner got me involved with another pain in the ass, Frank Limbaugh, who was the CEO of Dutch Financial Services. The guy tried to steal from my client that I let him in. John Crater wanted to retire. He had an adopted kid, and I would have took a bullet for John Crater. And he said, Frank Limbaugh is going to be there. He's going to get all his contacts to get us more deals, Radio Shack and all the other stuff. I said, we'll do it. We'll try him out. And the very first thing he tried to do was steal the lease from my client, you know, and we wound up separating. I just let him have the keys and have everything. I walk away broke. I mean, I even had a guy that was paying me 50 grand, me personally, to leave a warehouse that I knew I was already leaving. You talk about brilliant business deals. He says, I need you out of that warehouse. And I said, well, I need 100 grand and I need the down deposit to a new building. He says, I can't give you 100 grand. I'll give you 50 grand and I'll give you 25% of the lease. Right. And I said, okay, I'll take it. Well, that's at the very time that he wound up in the hospital for detached retina, a wonderful guy named Jim Slevko. He was introducing me to the #1 family in California with money, vouching for me, vouching for my integrity, knew about my record. And Frank Limbaugh came into the meeting and insulted the guy about his car being a replica. And the guy walked out and I lost the meeting. I got rid of Frank Limbaugh, handed him the keys and warned my client about what they were trying to do so that they could protect themselves. It's a dirty, nasty world out there. You just got to not trust anybody unless you verify. You know, just like a farmer has to check his field for weeds, that's what you got to do.
I've got a question. Please ask Laser, this is from Rick. Please ask Laser about the vanished documents he talked about and if he can publish them for evidence. So do you have a website up that has...
I have them all over and I'm putting up another one and I've given them to other people in case, I try to help Ron Lewis. He's a lawyer that Pierce Brainbridge tried to destroy because he wouldn't take a bribe. They wanted him to touch an escrow account. So he refused to. So they started disparaging him. And I came to his rescue because I'd seen the pattern. I didn't know in paying to get articles published domestically about him that I was harming myself. I didn't know that Andrew Lauren, who was Elliot Spitzer's number one guy behind Elliot Spitzer, was Tom McCarran.
Mm-hmm.
Tom McCarran would have none of the schemes that they were doing, so he quit Elliot Spitzer. And Andrew Lauren took over and told me that Goldman Sachs did no wrong in my case. He repeated the same thing that the Delaware and the SEC were saying to me, which was all bullshit. You know, I know better now. I studied the law and know. And so I put the documents religiously places all over the world. Now, I went to Wikipedia today. Everybody that puts stuff on Wikipedia about my case, it gets redacted.
Yeah.
You know, because Wikipedia is a public forum, open source, open record things. So you have to look through the pages deep and go 500 pages down to see what's really true. But the number one thing I got out there that I sent everywhere, and I'll repost them. Yep. Tonight, I'll post one after another on Twitter just in case they do something to me tomorrow. And it's a thing I got to live with, man. You know, in some ways, I'm 65 years old. They've taken everything from me. I haven't seen my kids or my grandkids since they kidnapped my daughter in 2004 to keep them safe. Yeah. I never stay alone. I always stay in cameras. When the article came out about Don Lewis, that's when the wrong guy got shot at the hotel. The guy that killed him called him a snitch. The cops came to me with the evidence markers all in front of my room. They didn't talk to my roommate. Yeah. They only talked to me because I looked like the guy involved. And but I didn't realize that the Don Lewis article, Andrew Lauren, was one of the attorneys at Pierce Bainbridge, and another one. This is a funny story. I made Gonzalez quit. Gonzalez fired 8 assistant U.S. attorneys that wouldn't take bribery from the $50 million no bid deferred prosecution thing, and they wouldn't be part of this prosecuting only Democrat scheme. So he fired them, and he wound up giving up his ghost. And Judge McCasey, Michael McCasey, took over, who was a federal judge in New York. And when he took over, a judge, a sweetheart, again Republican, but the decent man that we need more of, like my sweet girlfriend Mary Elizabeth Bullock. Robert Sanders, he doesn't get the recognition he should. R.B. Sanders, because he's got the same name as the back. But Richard Sanders was so clean, he went into prison and said, if anybody in here thinks their case is rigged, it's not my case. Talk to me. Yeah. And he stopped warrants that were illegal. When they were illegal warrants, he quashed them. So the law enforcement and bad prosecutors hated him. But he was a clean judge, and he couldn't take the bullshit that McCasey was hollering that Bush did no wrong, that Rumsfeld did no wrong, that the prosecutions and the waterboarding were all legal. And so Richard B. Sanders, a Supreme Court judge in Washington State, said, tyrant, tyrant. And everybody booed him. It was a Federalist dinner at $2,500 a plate. And the sergeant at arms came and talked to him. So McCasey felt encouraged, and he started the repertoire bullshit again. And they did no wrong and everything. So being an honorable man, he couldn't stomach. Tyrant, tyrant. Judge Sanders, Richard B. Sanders said, tyrant. And they took him out. After they took him out, guess what happened? McCasey passed out at the podium. He couldn't taste being faced with the truth. Yeah. So McCasey was removed, right? And Judge Sanders was removed. And they retaliated against Judge Sanders. I got people across the nation that I said, don't give money to me, give it to Judge Sanders. He's an honorable man. If any of our cases wind up in his court, you know, it's not against the law to donate to a judge as a regular citizen. Yeah. Right? You know, he's not going to be biased because of $2,500 from a person. Yeah. What they did is that Seattle Times, that had supported him for decades, came out and put a picture of a judge saying that the reason why Washington State has 20% black in prison, but only 2% black population, right? Mm-hmm. Is because of poverty pits. But Judge Sanders didn't say that, but they put his picture in the front of the other judge, right? Yep. It was a sack job. And so he lost by like 20,000 votes. If he had only lost by 18,000 or something like that, he could have done a recount and overcome it. But they did it a week before, and it was enough to change the vote against him. he's an honorable man. He wanted me to come and meet him. I had the sergeant at arms says, when he drives his car in, I'm going to leave my spot empty. We're going to go out for lunch and not come back.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to put him in harm's way.
Yeah.
We need more honest people like that. And that's what you got to do about stuff like that. And McCasey's son, right? Mark McCasey, get this, is Rudy Giuliani's lawyer.
Oh, okay.
At Bainbridge.
Yeah.
Right? And Rudy Giuliani wanted to be a competitor to Bain Capital with Giuliani Partners.
Yep.
And I nailed his ass on it in KB and started nailing his ass in Delaware, ran him off. Right? So he's well aware of who I am and what I'm doing. And Giuliani, you got to remember, I posted the lawsuit against Trump and was going against Trump for having Jay Clayton and protecting the Wall Street crimes. So that's when the assassination happened at the hotel. So now I research, when I help anybody, I research everything about them. I can do it anonymously. It helps for me to add my level of credit to it, right? But me getting killed doesn't help anybody. You know. So I'm putting the records out there. I'll re-put the key ones out there. The letter from the U.S. Trustee's office.
And your
judge's opinion.
Your Twitter is it's Laser Haas 01. That's what
right. Or Laser _Haas _real _ eToys CEO. On Twitter, it's Laser Haas. I don't hide who I am.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who I am. I don't hide. Again, here's another part of my story. It can't happen anymore because it's no longer a thing. Romney bought Clear Channel from Red McCombs. Do you know who Red McCombs is?
I just know the story of Clear Channel and their work behind the 1997 Telecommunications Act. 96 Telecommunications Act, but
they bought Romney, knowing he was running for president. I stopped him in 2008. This is funny. This is what the truth does. This is why people have to help. You don't have to mention me. I don't care what you say about me. Mention their crimes. The 7 sins of Goldman Sachs is enough that if we get it in the right hands, they get indicted. You shake up the world. You'll be responsible for that. You can claim credit for that, being on this side of the equation. Right. Romney, when he ran the first time, a team together put $38,000 and went to Iowa. And Romney himself claimed he spent $50 million against our $38,000. But he came in 5th, people, because the truth about what he was doing made such an impact to the right people on the ground, meeting with the right people and getting them to pay attention to the facts. He came in 5th. Now, unfortunately, when he came in 5th and was out of the race, I couldn't get anybody to pay attention. So we ran in 2012. I attacked him, but I didn't attack him to stop him from running. I believe he fraudulently took it because every night that he was losing, he'd wake up in the morning and the vote be changed. And Romney's family owned voting machines, and that was never looked into. But the thing that I'm going about is that I helped 2 kids do a Sodesco Quitam case. The Casero, John and Jay Casero, to keep them safe. I helped them do the Quitam, and they won the Quitam. And then Jay Casero winds up shot dead in his psychology office. You're just now getting millions of dollars. Why would you do something stupid? It's the bullshit that happens. But just like the New York Times article, rigging the IPO game, stopped the Toys R Us IPO, which saved people money. You never get credit for that the way you should, but you've done the deed. The same way talking about this stuff and getting out the judge's opinion in eToys. Any decent lawyer, any decent law school student can blow a threat train through her holes in there. Traub confessed, intentionally lying under oath. And I'll put up there the disgorge motion where the trustee says he confessed. But he left it in the record. That's proof of lying under oath, and they were supposed to be removed. They're supposed to be disgorged. And by Henry Middleton Arms, that's already cemented by the U.S. Supreme Court and the Third Circuit, where eToys is, he was supposed to be disqualified. Barry Gold disqualified. MNH disqualified. But remember, they had Cole Connolly there. Nobody's going to prosecute the case. So I'm going to put up the disgorge motion. the eToys motion, the letter from the U.S. Trustee's Office, the letter from the OIG of the SEC, and the letter that I gave to on Whistleblower Day, 2016. If you Google me, they're all over the place. They're redacting what's in their name, but they can't redact what I put up there until I'm gone. So I'll put it up there so you all can download the things that I think are key documents and key articles. Greed and debt. I'm the source of Mattel. He never denies it. I only give him shit about it when he says somebody else is an asshole for not publishing a story. That pisses me off. He's got kids. I understand he had to be safe. He couldn't keep his word to me because Penske Media bought out Rolling Stone, and Penske was Traub's friend. So they shut him down, right? But he could have done tweets about it. He could have got other people to do tweets about it. Instead he developed a personal animus against me. Asshole. Him and David Ciorda, Greg Palast, and others that I've supported. Even when Greg Ciorda wouldn't support me, I supported his wife and got others to support his wife when she was running for election. Because they're the best we got. Help others be the best we got. Help you get to national stage. You don't think that tomorrow, and I didn't talk to you about this before, if I win my case and get represented tomorrow, I don't buy you better studio and more help, right? We need a team that carries on when I'm gone, right? Because it's us against them. And like Martin Luther King says, it's war, people. And if you don't organize as good as the ones that are going for war against it, you lose.
Okay. Another question from Protege Son. He asks, who was the first person that started the domino effect at Laser's company? It says, great show. Thanks for your story, Laser. So who was it that first?
Well, he has to ask a clear question. Let me answer that right now and let him ask you another question.
Okay.
The 7 sins I told you about, that's my story on Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs started it by fraudulently betraying its client. Remember, it was the lead IPO agent, initial public offering, for underpricing and underallocating to guarantee handpicks. Remember, Goldman Sachs' job should be to do 20 million shares. It's going to get $1.50 a share, even if it only goes for $3.50. They're guaranteed $1.50 a share. Right. So underallocation don't make sense unless you're going to make more money another way. So instead of allocating 20 million shares where they make $30 million, they only allocate 8 million shares where they're only going to make 12 million, but they're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars by underpricing it to their friends who sell it, let's say for $60 or $80. So they get half of the $40, $50, or $60 that those people made. That's where it started. Then the next sin was the one of filing the eToys bankruptcy wrong, then destroying eToys books and records, then trying to bribe me. Then after that, they replaced me with one of their own. Then they retaliated and blocked the shareholders from having their equity committee. Then when the New York Supreme Court ordered the case to reopen, and that's public record that they can't redact, that's when they turn around and rush to settle the $1 billion case, which you admitted, and anybody with common sense could say there's a mega $1 billion case here. They settled it for $7.5 million after they promised they would protect them. So they backstabbed them again, right? And so pick any one of those and ask me more details about it.
I think you touched on what he was asking there. Okay, Houston, can you ask Laser how he thinks his eToy stocks could have been changed or affected by a huge amount of retail buying? I think alluding to the retail revolt that's happened the last year with these shorted companies.
Well, again, Toys R Us didn't even have .com. Right? I did a toytime.com right before eToys that filed bankruptcy in Columbus, Ohio. And again, Paul Traub was trying to help Overstock. Everybody knows Patrick Byrne. The asshole tried to bribe me, and I reported him on it. Nothing happened. What they had was Byrne bid $5 million to buy toytime.com in September 2000. And he tried to change that with Paul Traub saying all the inventory wasn't there by making records disappear. So what I did was I flew people out to the corporate office in California at toytime.com in Torrance, California, and I made copies of all the paper invoices. So when they showed up on Monday and said, it's not 5 million, it's only 1 million, I said, no, mofos, look at the paperwork right here. And we're going to count it again. And your two people and my two people are going to sign off on every pallet. And once it's done, it's done. And it's going to take until November. So you're going to miss your Christmas season. Yeah. So they paid the 5 million plus the 175 million for the delay. What Patrick Byrne and Paul Traub tried to do is Byrne pulled me aside and said, listen, we only need the box inventory. We can't have the broken cases that are in the shipping section, which is like 25% of the inventory. Yeah. You can keep 50% of that money, you go liquidate it, right? Yeah. I called the feds right on him, right in front of him, right? You know, he left and he never talked to me again. Matter of fact, as soon as he found out it was CEO of eToys, Patrick quit bidding. Yeah. Right? And he missed a big deal, right? I got a guy to buy a deal for 1.2 million. He would have gladly paid 3 million for, because they threw the inventory away. It was an empty room with no inventory. How do you count an empty room? Yeah. You know, you have to go back and find the invoices again. But eToys threw away all the paper inventories. They had it stolen and removed all the warehouse management center inventory. So when I was the CEO of eToys and Toby Langston, that's when the stock was traded on the short sheets. Yeah. And it couldn't trade for what it was. But I had it merged with Scholastic and other people. eToys was worth $1 billion minimum. Yeah. I had 395 million in bids, and Scholastic offered to match that, which would got the 290 million creditors paid whole. The stockholders, and by the way, you know, if the court allowed it, the court either had to give me $100 million. My contract was 60-40 split. Yeah. Right. Of everything, I got over $5 million. When I came on board eToys, M&AT and Paul Traub and Barry Gold planned to sell eToys, and you can look that up online. Wall Street Journal, that's how I got him to do my article. Yeah. I showed him the numbers that it was all bullshit. Was going to sell Bain to Bain Capital KB, everything for $5 million. I got them to pay $30 million, and I still had assets left, including a public company that Bain Capital didn't want. Yeah. But if they bought the Bain Capital, and this is what they did in Toys R Us, there was $1 billion bid for only 300 stores in Toys R Us. And I guarantee you the audit of those stores, they didn't get back 300 million net. Yeah. Probably only less than 100 million. Yeah. I'm Laser the Liquidator, right? Tens of billion dollars in assets, over 1,000 cases over 25 years. You know, Ames, Bradley's, Campbell, NCA Computer, Microwave, you name it, you know, mushroom farms. I liquidated, you know, pottery bonds, everything. And I had it merged with Scholastic, right? The reverse merger for the stockholders, even if they did it 10 for 1, they would have got like $4 a share. Yeah. You know, on the stock. There was all those type of things that was taken off because debtors counsel and creditors counsel. And I hired Barry Gold. I gave permission to Barry Gold because being naive, believing in the system, no judge would ever stiff me my money and allow anybody to do conflict of interest crimes, right? Barry Gold and Paul Traub and M&AT all signed an affidavit. They didn't know each other. Yeah. Right? So they can't lie under oath and do anything wrong. So I hired Barry Gold just to sue Goldman Sachs in New York Supreme Court. You know what they did after they locked me out? Barry Gold is president, CEO of eToys with M&AT, nominated Paul Traub to sue Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs lawyer and Goldman Sachs worker, Bain Capital lawyers, nominated Bain Capital lawyers. In other words, if you take transitive logic, A equal B, B equals C, then A equals C, they're all one big gang. Yep. They're all one big gang. So Goldman Sachs sued Goldman Sachs and eToys lost another $1 billion. Yep. What could I have done? 20 cents a share. Think of this. My plan was once we did the Scholastic merger to do with Scholastic what Amazon wasn't going to do. Yeah. Remember my plan about doing all the toy industry. Yeah. And Scholastic's the perfect thing. It's kids. Yeah. I never got the chance because they shut it down. Yeah. Man. Right? These are all the opportunities you miss everywhere else, people. Okay. I don't have much more time I can do here. I gotta get running for the evening. It's 1,000. Go ahead. I understand. And I got to start putting things online.
Yeah. We're at. Holy smokes! We did. Let me just run my math here real quick. 369 plus
Everybody that donated today, when he keeps the list, you know, you're anonymous. Show proof that you donated. If I win my case, you can come to the party.
All right. Yeah, we raised
I'm gonna have an after party when this case breaks, people.
$1,101 so far today,
and that's without my 100, right? That's without my 100.
That's without your 100, yeah. All the advertising goes directly to the charity as well. So anyone that watches this video later, you click on it and you watch some ad for Google Fi or whatever, that ad revenue also goes to Toys for Tots in perpetuity. So if you watch this show a year from now, that revenue will also go to Toys for Tots. And I want to thank everybody for jumping in. That was a long one. Took us a while to get there because of technical snafus.
And I'm sorry it's so much, people. But again,
it's a lot of
I
information.
testify to this under penalty of perjury as a felon, you know, to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney General. You're helping make a difference today. You repeat this, you show this. Even if you want to say, hey, look at this asshole, do it, but get the word out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for your donations.
It's a lot to process and watch and rewatch and try to make a flow chart of all the names.
Well, you go to my articles, it lays it out. I try to lay it out. My girlfriend is a retired federal judge, and her friends and she compliments my writing. It's not rocket science, people.
Don't
let trolls
LinkedIn?
And shills tell you not to look because I do too many commas or I spell a word wrong. Screw that shit. Pay attention to the facts.
Yeah. So it's so you post on Twitter. I put your Twitter in the chat. And do you post your articles on LinkedIn or other places?
LinkedIn, yeah. LinkedIn? Facebook kicked me off when I went. You know, 1 million buy 1+ each for Bernie. Yeah. I worked 50 things for Bernie Sanders. Facebook kicked me off and said I'm not the legitimate Laser Haas. You know, there's nobody else out there like me. Fortunately, you know.
Well, all right.
And I got stuff out there under Microsoft Word 2, articles from years. You'll see the other thing. You'll see in 20 years the story never changes. Yeah. It's the only thing is I get more facts, like finding out about Stephen Piken in 2019, which is why Rudy Giuliani and gang, you needed me, shut up. And again, they don't give the order. They just say, I wish somebody would quiet this eye, and somebody tries to make them happy and collect. Yeah. You know, that's the way that shit works.
All right, everybody. Monkey Butt. Hope you guys enjoyed the Monkey Butt cam that was up in the corner there. That's a new addition.
Hey, he was real quiet with my big booming voice. He's a good dog.
He's a very good dog, aren't you?
Monkey Bucky.
Yes. Thank you so much, Laser, for coming on.
Well, no, thank you for taking the time. Yeah, hopefully you don't get harassed too much about this.
If more news comes out later, we'll bring you back on to give us updates.
Oh, I got a big surprise coming in February 2022, people. Right, please stay tuned.
We're going to keep looking for that. And all right, everybody, here's your outro, and we will all bid you adieu. And there goes it.
And I'll pass this around. On all my sites too.